there are moments of the game where like this is good? Question mark.
But I will be on my deathbed and I'll be
Thinking about that platform.
why? I could have been playing anything else.
It feels so good.
No.
You are get out of here. Throughout my whole playthrough, I was somewhere between bored and just mad.
This game, man. You can't just break the rules every screen.
How dare you, hamburger music? Like, I'm gonna take offense to that.
For some reason, this game like has a home in my brain and will never leave.
Fuck this game, I'm gonna beat it because I fucking hate it.
Every time I talk about this game, I sound insane. I need to do drugs. I'm a Birdman. The homing gun to shoot the lobsters.
Why are the blocks there? Why does anything exist, you know? Like, why does this game exist?
So you're trying to tell me that you think this is a joyless piece of shit?
I think this game is very, very good. One of the best games I played this year for sure.
No, dude.
All right, hello and welcome. How are you gentlemen doing tonight?
Woo!
Glad to be here. Excited.
Good to be here. Yeah, we're here for our second video game book club long game for Seriously Casual, episode 16, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. I'm excited to do. Wait, did I say Final Fantasy 16?
No, I said lucky number 16.
Oh, I was
Sorry.
like, what?
You-
Final Fantasy
You
16?
did say Final Fantasy Tactics Advance though.
Oh. Listen, somebody
Roll it back.
subbed and put the noise in my ear because I forgot to turn that off. Anyways, now that that's off, we're here for Final Fantasy Tactics for the PlayStation 1. Let's see, when did that come out here stateside? North American release January 28th, 1998.
Whew.
That's an old video game. Man, it came out 6 months prior in Japan. That's a pretty wide release window.
Lots of text.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Lots of text. Some of it which didn't make it over entirely in the correct pieces. Anyways, we'll get into that. So, Darth, this was your suggestion that for long game we always vote on, so that we ended up picking through vote. Would you like to take us through your pick and your kind of, I guess, intro to why?
Yeah, so I picked this one because Final Fantasy Tactics is kind of an entry into the like tactical kind of like isometric RPG genre for me. It's a genre that I hold very near and dear to my heart, and I kind of measure every game, you know, relatively in the genre to this game because it's my favorite of the genre and probably like my top 3 favorite games ever made. So it's obvious why I would choose this because I'm super biased about it. So keep that in mind. I think it just has exceptional world building and character rating. Those two things are super well intertwined, and it gives the story a really good depth that you can really mull it over for a while. I feel like personally for me it has like this endless replayability, the way that you can mix and match your classes, the way that there's so much randomness and there's so many sort of ways that you can play the game that I've been able to play it like 6 or 7 times completely differently each time. I think that, you know, I'm able to do that because the mechanics are built in such a way that it allows you to really express your skill and your knowledge of the game into how you play and how you build your characters, which I really appreciate. And of course that's all coupled with just an absolutely beautiful art direction, pixel art, beautiful music, amazing sound design, just all around nearly perfect game for me, for what I like.
Nice.
That's all I
Yeah.
have to say. Okay, bye.
I also
You're
find
here.
it very interesting because this is another like you are the youngest member of the squad. This game came out before you did, so it's always interesting to me like when you have this fondness for like older video games, because I know some people just look back at old games and are like, "Ooh, old."
Well, you know, it's 'cause my uncle was the person who introduced video games to me in the first place, and he obviously kind of like he probably played games most throughout the 90s, so a lot of my early experiences are shaped by his experiences in those times.
It is neat. I feel like it was kind of like the opposite for me. Like I was the one into video games, and my parents were like, "Why is he so into video games?" And my dad would like watch me play. My dad got super into Ocarina of Time, and I will forever remember my first playthrough of that because of how invested he was.
It's
I
awesome.
didn't know that. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about this game because it's like this is the first game. Like I feel like a lot of games going into them, like I'm either I know how it's gonna go, or I'm like unsure of how it's gonna go, and like hope for the best. But this game, I think I know exactly how it's gonna go, which I think is gonna make it pretty exciting. That being said,
Hell yeah.
would anybody like to start us off with their? Go ahead,
Me.
Colin.
I already did mine, so he's
Yeah, I was gonna say I just want to follow Darth
Mhm.
because I don't know that I hold this game in quite the same level of esteem, but generally speaking, I'm very comfortable saying that this is one of my favorite games. I just think almost almost everything about it is truly exceptional. Like even the even the occasionally bunk ass writing in the North American version, which was amended in War of the Lions.
That's cool.
Yeah, we can get into the different translations and stuff
Mhm.
because there's community opinions and all that, but like even the way the story is told is so cool. I just love the plot and world of this game. And I booted up Tactics Advance like before stream just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I am so less interested in the story from the get-go. Look at the intro movie here. It's just fucking cool.
Yeah,
The
It
colors.
is cool.
It
Do you-
looks amazing. I don't know what it is about
It's a
it.
Western company who did this 3D intro.
Yeah. Well, and to their credit, they did a fantastic job
Mhm.
matching the look and feel of the intro movie with the actual game. Like you'll see it
Yes.
here in a second as they kind of pull in on curtain draws on the scene of the game in Orban Monastery here, and it's just like, it's so fucking good, dude. I don't know.
Mhm.
I'll admit, right, that there are, and I'm sure we'll get into gameplay, that there are parts of the game that can be unfair if you're just a casual first time enjoyer and kind of get kicked in the teeth by certain moments of it, and that's hard to defend. But I think if you zoom out and you look at kind of what Darth is talking about with replayability, the game gives you a million tools to play with. You can curb stomp this game back and forth if you know what you're doing. And I just it's really hard to get a game to like this long, and the way its systems are set up to be balanced immaculately at all times. So that I think they did a really good job, all told, aside from some bumpy moments. Anyway, I'll wrap it up because there's a lot to talk about here, but this game is truly phenomenal in my opinion.
I could go next and kind of go off a bit of what you were saying, Colin. So I don't have any experience. This is my first time playing a Japanese console strategy game. Like I played some turn-based strategy, like the form of Larian strategy games, I guess, is the closest, like Baldur's Gate 3 and Divinity Original Sin 1. Dark Sun Shattered Lands, like older CRPGs that aren't really in the same vein as these, like the Japanese console style ones. So yeah, this is my first real exposure to the genre, and in my head, this game was going to be one of those super impenetrable, super long, and just a game that I was never going to get around to actually playing. So I was pretty happy to finally get around to playing it.
Yay.
And overall, I would say it's a really great game that I struggled to enjoy sometimes, because there's a lot of frustration. I think it's a lot of frustration for a first-time player. I was thinking about it, and I can see how it would be more rewarding and enjoyable once you know the game inside and out, because there's a lot of frustration I had in wanting to experiment with the systems because it's very complex and interesting, but every time I tried to experiment, I just got fucked over, and
Yeah,
just
I can relate
constant
to that.
frustration. Yeah. And from a presentation, and in terms of presentation, I think it's 10 out of 10. It's beautiful. And yeah, I guess we can get into more of the frustrations later. But overall, yeah, it's a great game.
Holden.
Yeah, so this is such a weird one for me. I'm a little torn on it because I had this game as a kid. It's one of the first games I ever played. And because of that, you need a somewhat decent reading comprehension. So I would just like I remember I'd like play Final Fantasy Mystic Quest and be like, man, Final Fantasy's awesome, and I'd play Tactics and be like, I can't read, I don't know what's going on. Um, and then as an adult, I kept coming around to the game, but I'd either burn out or something else would get my attention. So it's one of the few games from my childhood I have yet to beat as an adult, and it was a very interesting experience, especially given like just how the story landed with me. Um, Also, just being like this weird game in my imagination that I sort of knew but didn't know how it unraveled, and the way it does unravel is so interesting. Um, anyway, I come from like as far as like my preferred strategy RPGs, like Fire Emblem 7 was the game I was obsessed with as a kid.
Woo!
Woo!
Reckon no Ken.
And I that really makes me biased in the sense that like I really love permadeath, so I was real. It sounds crazy. Like I was so grateful this game had a permadeath mechanic, but like that is what keeps me engaged. Even though there were times where I'd reset over the, oh my raise didn't go off 3 times in a row. Like, that's hilarious, dude.
It is
The
pretty
game.
hilarious.
I had to smile every time I had to reset like half an hour of progress, but oh, and then I love the like mechanically the focus on height and terrain types and charge time specifically. I've always loved the Final Fantasy V jobs and the ATB introduced, and what 4 was the first one, I think. You guys
Yep.
know better. Yeah. Uh and like I've always loved time mages, so leaning into like my favorite elements of Final Fantasy mechanically on a strategy level was really fun. But at the same time, I definitely ran into the same issue Cornwall had, which is that most of the time, if I was like, you know, I'm gonna do a 2-for-1, I'm gonna try and level this job class and like make my super units while playing the game. It's like, no, you should just go grind a few encounters and then play the class that's good. And I'm sure if you have the game knowledge, you don't have to play like that. But man, that was the antithesis of what I like in strategy RPGs. But all that being said, I think it's such a good like blueprint and is so obviously helped define and make strategy RPGs that much more interesting and unique. And real quick on the topic of the aesthetics, one of my favorite PS1 games, when Korn said 10 out of 10 visuals, I was like, yes. But man, those camera angles are so bad sometimes,
Oh, yeah.
especially with the aspect ratio.
Yep.
And that's the thing. Like, I love and appreciate this game, but I have these weird little nitpicks all over. So
If
I'm
you could
excited
like
to
lower
talk
the
about it with you
terrain
guys.
or something, yeah.
Yeah,
Or
like
at
hide
times,
walls.
flip to a top down would be fine. Being able to do that would be cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes without saying, but obviously that's just like PS1 hardware. They were figuring it out, you know.
Oh yeah, this is definitely
and
we're gonna do this and see how it turns out.
I'll say I really like. Actually, one of my friends called this game a masterpiece, and for me, a masterpiece is 10 out of 10. Like I think Link to the Past, the perfect little building blocks that go together with consideration of everything else to be like a 10 out of 10 experience. And I really love this game's focus on simpler graphics to sell like more extraordinary moments. So like the way they, shift the colors for like a fire attack or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
the zoom ins, the rotations, flexing those rather than like the typical Final Fantasy, like summon visuals or crazy theatrics. I really like this game's focus, like on a ton of levels, not just visually. Yeah,
I know.
this game's easy to ramble on about.
Yeah, not to derail you, but did you use any summons in the game?
Hmm.
Okay, cool. Because I figured you'd like those from what you just said.
Yeah, they're cool.
Everybody remembers the first time they cast Haste too. All right, well, I will kind of close this out in the openings. Diaz, this was a game that was super weird to me because I had played and beaten this game like late in the PS1's life cycle because I played it before I played Final Fantasy 9, like before it came out. Like I loved Final Fantasy 7, like played it when I was super young. Had not so great experiences with Final Fantasy 8, and then like before Final Fantasy 9, like I had played that, I was like, wait a minute, Final Fantasy Tactics? Say word? And like I think I borrowed it from my friend who was the same friend who I got Final Fantasy 7 from. And I went into it fully thinking like, oh, Final Fantasy game, and just got like blown out because I was like, what the what, huh? But that's like I had kind of critical memories of this game, like, Wheatgrass fight, final boss, like the twist. Like I could remember all that, but I couldn't remember like much of the experience, which is really weird. Like for me with a game, because I usually stick with them, but I couldn't remember. So when this came back up for long game, I was like, oh, sick. Like I'm gonna finally, like it's gonna jog my memory. Like I'm gonna get to experience it, and yeah, like I honestly think that other Final Fantasy games should strive to have a story as engaging in this as this one. Like
Yeah, same.
every like cutscene that happened, or like kind of like when you'd be moving on the world map and like the screen was like now loading, I was like, like I was just waiting. I was like, oh, what's gonna happen? Like it was just so good. Like the story really kind of draws you in. You become really invested. At least not like if the side characters, but definitely Ramza and Delita. Like it's just like, how is this gonna play out? And then like the way it looks, like I was saying, you'll never forget the first time you saw Haste 2. Like the effects are just so cool. Like casting big spells, and it like I'm like, oh shit, my PlayStation's about to explode. I see smoke coming out of it. Like it literally drops down to like 2 or 3 frames. Like this is rough, but I loved it. Like thank you. Like thank you for just fucking going for it. And like I really love that. But I say it a lot, but I am definitely all about the gameplay in games that we play, and almost every step of the way I found myself at odds with this game, which is really strange because I remember really enjoying kind of every step of the way of Tactics Advance, and like just so many things. It was like anytime I had to interface with anything, there was some gripe I had, or something that got in the way, or something that was obtuse or irritating, and I was like, whatever. Like I tried to like power through it, and then it was like every time I'd managed to forget one, a new one popped up, and it was just like, get all of this out of the way, which like Chris was saying, like it can be frustrating. And it was just like more often than not playing this, I was kind of over
Give
it.
an example.
No,
I
I
feel
have a
similar.
list of examples. Like, so I don't know if you want me to get into my full list or just want me to read one
I'm just
off
curious
of it.
of like one in that context.
The Zodiac system. I hate that.
Oh, I know,
affects
dude. You
so
go to
much.
reset and you're
And
doing
yeah,
50%
that's
damage.
another one. It's just like, oh, well, the whole fight that I've just planned for is now scrambled because I'm going to do less damage, have less chance to hit one particular unit, which is really unfortunate. And it also affected the percent. So if the perfect example was my monk and my white mage were, or it was, I can't remember. No, it was my monk and my black mage were a Virgo and a Capricorn, I think it was, which turns out to be the worst affinity. So I could reliably expect my monk to never get haste because they were the same gender and they were like opposite Virgo. And so it was like, he just would not get it. He had a 41% chance at best. And I was like, well, that's cool. And then like it affects like your white mage healing. Not only does their faith like, oh, this isn't the Zodiac, but it ties into the Zodiac as well. They were at odds too. So not only did their faith affect how much they healed, the low faith on that unit affected how much they received, and the Zodiac meant they got even less. And I was like, well, that's great. So, and protect would miss, my heal wouldn't heal for, and I was like, this is just annoying. Like this is not like, oh yeah, my white mage just sucks on this one unit or two.
When
of
I
my
saw
units.
that, I actually didn't realize that was a mechanic until I was a few hours in, and then I looked at the tutorial system, and then I remember seeing that screen on the Zodiac sign and the entire layout of like all that, how that
It's
shit
a
been
weird
connected.
chart. You're
I
like,
laughed out
"Ugh."
loud. I was just like, oh my god, this is fucking insane.
Yeah.
I will say I personally hella dig it. Maybe I won't get too into it, but like I think that it introduces so much randomness and chaos to a battle that typically I find myself having to re-strategize on the fly, which I appreciate sometimes.
Let's go, Darth. Let's go.
No,
I think it's super
So-
cool. It's just it's insane. I think
Sometimes
but-
annoying.
well,
Sometimes
the
annoying.
thing I compared it to is, I'm glad you brought up Final Fantasy VII, Holden, because it was like you have your weapon triangle, and my example was you have Hector, who uses an axe, go up to a Myrmidon, who uses a sword. He wins the weapon triangle. And I was like, but that Myrmidon likes the color red, and Hector likes blue, so he missed
Yeah, so now you
tactics.
gotta get Lynn in there.
Well,
Yeah.
I like what Darth is saying, especially in the thought of playing the game over again, getting some flavor. I will say like that compounded with, okay, I'm gonna place my second platoon over here. I'm gonna put my white mage in this corner. Oh, that wasn't relevant. They're backwards, and like I didn't even get to view the battlefield. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Oh, that's
spend
another
5
one of my
minutes
gripes.
hitting
Yeah,
the
you
loading
want.
screen
Here's your
so I can
formation and your
respec.
tactics screen. Oh, by the way, you don't know what the map looks like. You don't
And I
know
have
where the
brain
enemies are.
problems, and I
You
want to
don't.
use save state, so I gotta reset and actually
Yeah,
spend 5
It's,
minutes waiting.
you want to
again.
spend 15 minutes figuring out where the map is, and then be like, "Oh wait, I didn't draw a diagram. I fucked it up." Like I was like, "Oh yeah, formation, great tactics."
Can I just want to just real
Go-
quick.
go
just
for it.
real quick.
Go for it.
Because I
Tell him, Colin. Tell him. Come on, Colin.
I'm not gonna. 'Cause I can appreciate. I'm an adult. I can understand these criticisms, and I'm not gonna sit here and defend them. What I will say, and I forgot to touch on this. This is like in my intro because I was
Mhm.
just geeking about how much I fucking love this game, and I do. But this is like my 5th time beating this game. The first time I was just a dumb child and could not beat it because it was too hard for me. And that's the normal experience, I think, even
Yeah.
for some adults.
Absolutely.
But I will say, this is the point. I will
Mhm.
say that I have played and beaten this game 4 times, 5 times not beating it, and I have never once run afoul of the Zodiac system in such a way that I even noticed it. Like, yeah, it's there, sure, Can it be abrasive? Yeah. But I think it's cool factor, it's neat idea factor, it's what it adds to the game in terms of like just an interesting mechanic outweighs its friction.
Yeah, I agree.
And just on the topic of not being able to view the battle, I agree. I would love to be able to see the battle screen before I load up my units, but again, I never found that. Like maybe one time in my playthrough, I was like, man, my dude can't bum rush this bitch as effectively because I didn't know he was going to be there. And like, yeah, okay, if I reloaded it, I could kill him in 1 turn, but now to kill him in 2 turns, it's fine.
Now you got to plan on the fly.
Yeah, like, and then you got to scramble, and it's okay, you know.
Yeah,
I never.
one-shotting
So
me with
it's
your
this is
units
where we
anyways.
get into it's just totally subjective, right? It's
Mhm.
not like I can see why Danny. Yes, it would piss you off. Me, I'm just like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. Let
Okay,
me
you
at him.
know,
Let me
you
at
know
him.
what was not subjective though? The Mustadio mission. That dude just ran up and got one shot.
Yeah, all those
Really?
mechanics are objectively trash.
Oh, I
where you
have
to
I have
protect the
another
NPC.
complaint about like those missions because of something in it as well.
They're just straight up suicidal, man. They're like,
Mhm.
fucking, yeah, we're diving, we're going in.
Really, guys, my Mustadio has always taken the vantage point on top of the wall and not like gone
Been
No,
smart.
mine ran up and 2 black mages just popped him. Just
I guess it was just the Zodiacs.
and then
man.
it game
Poor
over,
guy.
turn 1, and I went, huh?
Yeah, the mission with Rafa, with Malik, her brother, I had multiple attempts where
Oh,
she would just walk forward, the ninja would jump up on the rafters, hit her with a partisan, the other one would jump in the choke and hit her with a magic shuriken, and I would literally get a game over before I could even do anything. And I was like, well,
yeah,
that was
she
great.
got countered in 1 shot, turn 1 for me
Yeah.
as well one time.
Yeah,
That
and
was
she would,
cool.
or she would just stand in a corner while my units are fighting for their life. I'm like, just cast anything, something. And she's like, no, I'm gonna fuck off into the corner. And I'm like, well, this
Yeah.
is fun. I'm glad you're taking up a spot.
They really could improve the AI for sure.
I will say I hear you, Colin, and I think if I decided to read more than 2 of the tutorials, I probably
Don't worry, they're
would have
bad
been
too.
I would have okay, maybe I wouldn't have been more well equipped. And B, a lot of the time I was just getting impatient and bum rushing,
Sure.
which is
I mean,
like
some of this stuff also is offset by the fact that I've played it so many times, and I'm not a master of the game by any means, but I know how to game it in such a way that I can beat some ass when I want to. Did you lose this mission?
Yeah, I went in with Ramza and Delita by himself to see if I could win.
Okay. I was like,
saw
what's
that
going
and
on?
I was like, this is crazy advanced tech.
Anyway, but yeah, so like I didn't really have a problem with that Rafa mission because by the time I got there, my dudes were kicking heads in.
Yeah,
You know,
totally. Right.
my
like you just have a
Agrius
ninja and he's faster
yeah.
than everyone. Who
I,
rolls
di-
up.
I didn't get Angry Ass's Holy Knight abilities till I think chapter 4 because I
Oh,
felt
dude.
really dumb.
Oh.
So you can imagine just really bonehead decisions like that, just making the game not anywhere near as fun.
Yeah. Well,
or
I know
just adding
Danny
a lot of
didn't.
friction.
Danny
Di-
didn't use.
I didn't
them,
use
and,
any special characters.
And I think that objectively, from a game balance perspective, I think those types of classes are too strong. And maybe not. Maybe because maybe you need a bailout and you get Sid and you're like, all right, we're coasting through the end of the game because he can just fucking solo it pretty much. Not really, but you know he's just super strong.
He's that guy.
So like if you try to play through without them,
him.
yes, it's much harder because they can just take out 3 units per turn almost every turn if they want to, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, I benched all the special characters because again, the guest AI Agrius kept bolting my characters in like chokes, like so I'm like trying to move people around, and she's just like, "There's an enemy, bolt," and I was just like, you know what, you're benched. I'm keeping. Oh, this is my probably favorite part of the game is my random draws on my characters. My monk's name was Dick, and my white name was Anita, so I had Anita Dick. So that was
No way.
that was top.
Dude, I got a fucking chocobo named Little John.
Wow.
What?
What the fuck?
Yeah, I found Little John, but he was an enemy knight, so he got got.
Okay. Rip that guy.
But anyway, not to go back to your list, Danny. I think that there's certainly a lot of validity to many criticisms of this game, but I think what's beautiful about it is that it gives you, the player, so much agency and so much power. You have to grind for it, and that sucks. But I think that I think it offsets that whole the friction if you work for it, and I think that if you compare it against other games around this age, it maybe is a little anomalous in that you have to grind more than you would in Final Fantasy VII, for example, because by that age, like, you kind of was becoming less common that you'd need to grind for hours. It's not like Dragon Quest 1 or whatever anymore.
Yeah.
But I think that, like, if you do compare it with some of those older games like Dragon Quest 1 or even worse 2, it's really old stuff. Like, you can, if you know what you're doing in this game and you have a plan and you kind of have archetypes in your head already for what you want to do. I need 4 dudes plus Ramza. You can really get through the game and grind for 3 or 4 hours and be good.
I agree. If
You
you
know?
really know what you're doing.
I don't even think you need to grind.
Yeah. If you just want to roll through the game. But you're right. Yes, you don't really need to.
In the OG version, I should say, like in I guess that's the one we're talking about. I found Holden, like you were talking about, like shifting things around. I kind of knew exactly, who needed to be what class, and so I would just sort of like be like, hey, I'll keep all these guys their main classes, but I'll switch this guy off to the class he needs to level up in order to become a ninja. So I'd have like one kind of guy who's like B squad or maybe 2, and if you just gotta strike the balance.
Well, that's a weird aspect of the game too. I guess again, not knowing how this game unraveled, I thought you would get more than 5 units to select at a time, and I think it's smart that they chose these small bite-sized things because it exponentially takes longer and longer the more units you have. But it's just kind of weird because I wouldn't. To me, it's just such a waste of time to spend more time on units to switch out for special occasions. So I just sort of brute force my normal 5 I would have,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
by a certain point, I found the 5 that I was comfortable with, and then I actually lost one. I lost the engineer Stadio to
No!
You let your boy
and
die?
I stuck with it because I like consequences in games. So
Yeah, I
do
like
doing it.
consequences
Yeah.
too. The canonical
What
mistake.
So
about his
I
dad,
actually
bro?
that was pretty bad because I had no other good units, and I had to use one of the Hell Knights that you get. What's his name? I forgot his name. God, my
Malik?
memory's fucked.
Malik, yeah.
Yeah. He sucks. He sucks.
He does suck.
So then, thankfully, I got the God unit at the end, and I just breezed through. But
Yeah, totally.
I forgot what I was saying. What were we talking about? Final Fantasy?
Final Fantasy
I took-
Tactics for
The amount of units and
PlayStation
having
1.
to spend time to build up, like, more than your main.
Oh
Group.
yeah. So yeah, I settled on the 5 that I was comfortable with, and I also did not even I never saw a ninja or anything like that. There's like classes I didn't see because I have no idea like what it takes to unlock those or what.
Oh man, ninjas are,
Are
so
there-
freaking good.
Are there in-game tutorials that tell you what job combinations you need for classes?
I don't
No,
think so.
but it's in the booklet.
Oh, really?
Oh, the manual.
Yeah, the manual has like the big tree that shows.
That's
all
cool.
the arrows.
I was surprised. I missed 2. I missed Bard and Mime. I figured I
yeah.
had gotten all of them. I was like, calculator. I'm not a nerd. Peace out.
TI-83, never heard of them.
Yeah.
Which I don't even know how that class works. It's,
Oh yeah,
I'm
those
pretty sure like
Wombology.
mediator and calculator are maybe not mediator because that's like a monster class, right? But calculator, I'm pretty sure you can just straight up break the game with.
It's kind of a meme class, kind of the same way that
Yeah.
mine is.
Also, I felt like when I was trying to experiment with the, I guess Holden we mentioned this earlier, but just like anytime I tried to experiment, I just completely got fucked, and
How dare you?
it was super discouraging.
Experiment
it.
in what way?
Like trying to, I guess multi-class would be the term, or even just like say for example, I was using a white mage, and I thought, well, it would be cool if she could use a bow to actually do something when she's not casting spells, support spells, because otherwise she's just standing there. So then I tried to, like Rosa from Final Fantasy IV, and didn't work because every time I would give her, I'd make her an archer, and then she'd have no MP, so she couldn't actually do anything white mage effectively. And then I gave her the equip bow talent to her ability, whatever you call it. So she could use a bow as a white mage, and then her attacks did no damage. So
Yep.
and then there's points earlier on when I was trying to do that with multiple different characters, and I kept getting fucked because I didn't have use item on anyone, and I was just like,
Oh yeah.
I didn't even
felt,
run item, honestly.
Yeah, for a while,
What?
like I just felt like I needed to have Phoenix Downs on everyone
Yeah,
and
you
stuff,
do.
and
You do.
yeah, that's another thing that just
I
discouraged me
only
from
ran
actually.
Raise on one unit, so
Yeah.
that's
I did
why I
that
went
before my
crazy.
monk got revived. I was living fast and furious.
Yeah, I tried that as well, and Raise like hit like 50% of the time.
Yeah.
I felt like probably because of the Zodiac system. So it's just a lot of little frustrations that kind of really discouraged me from actually trying all the cool shit in the game because there's tons of it.
I will say I was discouraged, like trying to do it in difficult missions, but I still made some sick, nasty units. It was fun. I wanted to get way more creative than I ended up doing. Like toward the
Same.
end, realizing like staves you can run 2 sword on, like that's got to be an interesting magic boost, right? Yeah, like there's some interesting stuff you can do.
Yeah.
What
I tried to run twin crossbows and then realized you couldn't and got sad.
Oh
That
no.
would be so
Choo-choo.
cool, dude.
Dude, charge 20 with dual crossbows, 6,000 damage.
I learned charge 20, but when I saw to use it, and it was like he's gonna go in 50 turns. I'm like, okay, that unit will have moved halfway around the map. Like, well,
But then you could also use like don't move from a time mage or
I could have just
Yeah,
walked
you
up with
keep
my
a helmet
ninja.
off.
Whew.
Sure, but the point is there's ways to make it work if you really
Mhm.
want to, you know?
And I think that leads into one of my favorite ways that the game is an RPG, and how it allows you to mix and match from so many different classes at once. Like it's not like any other Final Fantasy game, sometimes allowing you to have, action commands from one despite having
Yeah,
the
like
stats
you
of
just have
another.
a sub job.
Yeah, it's so it in my own head, it's so cool. I can have a ninja who frigging like teleports, and like anytime he's
It
attacked,
teleports so sick.
like I really appreciate how much you can modify your characters. I think once again it leads into like the replayability, and furthermore probably leads into why me and Colin like this game and have such an easy time with it, because it allows you, the more knowledge that you have of both the maps you're going to be on and all the abilities all at once, you start to sort of like slot things in, and what's going to work together, what's going to be powerful.
Mhm.
And there's really nothing more awesome than putting stuff together like that and just making a unit that just does something really good. It does what you want them to do, like for instance, like Chris, like you wanted to have a like white mage that does things besides healing, and that's a cool idea, but you don't have the game knowledge that bows are ass, which sucks.
Exactly.
But if I wanted to do that, I would make a white mage and I would give them guns and then eventually elemental guns, and they would be fucking crazy.
Okay.
I
yeah.
did summoner on my white mage.
Same.
Eventually,
they
I
can-
actually swapped her back to a chemist just because she was actually doing damage with the gun. So, yeah.
That's like one of the OG Mustadio builds, just engineer chemist, and he just shoots dudes and with an ice gun and throws potions around.
It's awesome.
Toxic.
He's
Sounds
great.
very
dude.
toxic.
So I agree with you, Darth, and that's why I think the game is super cool, and all these systems are apparent to me as I'm playing, but not being able to actually do anything with them is the frustrating part. It's like I can definitely appreciate it. It's just the actual first time experience. I found it pretty frustrating, but
I think that's fair. I think that the first time experience isn't as good as experiencing it over and over again. That's
Yeah.
kind of a
Yeah.
problem, but to me, it's actually a boon to how much I've enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Right.
kind of like what Danny was saying. First time experience is really carried by the presentation and the story and the music and stuff.
Oh,
Gameplay
hell,
can be frustrating.
I'm just gonna say here I completely had no fucking idea what was going on in the story. I think
It's so good.
I'm starting to
come
worry
on.
about my reading comprehension because I felt like I was
It's so good.
on
Okay,
drugs.
so
Chris was
there's
looking at all
like
the white people with blonde hair and getting all mixed up.
there's a little bit of like I don't want to. It's not quite unreliable narrator, but there's a lot of like cloak and dagger shit.
Well, there's a
and
ton. Like everybody's
no.
fucking everybody else over.
Yeah, specifically, like there are multiple scenes where Delita and Ramza later on in the story, they're like directly at odds, or not directly at odds with each other, but like who Delita says he's working for should be at odds with Ramza. So when Ramza is talking to him, he doesn't know for sure if Delita is like a threat to him, and
Like
so
the church
Delita will
scene?
say shit like,
Yeah.
"Y'all, I'll see you around," or whatever, something sort of that should sound innocent, but it's like,
Yeah,
How-
like try and stay
how does he
alive.
mean that? Yeah, like does it?
He
Next
just
time he
got
sees me,
really
is he
mean
gonna
at
be
a
my
certain
enemy? You know?
point.
Yeah. Well, then
You hurt
the
my
whole thing is,
feelings.
he wants Ramza to stay alive to further his own end. At the end
Yeah.
of the day. It's
Well,
not
and it's so
personal for him at
cool
all.
because like they both want good things, but Delita is willing to sacrifice like all of his morals and
It's humanity,
Yeah,
bro.
bro, that's so true. That ties into like one of the strongest themes of the game, which is power,
Yeah.
and sort of like juxtaposing that with justice and doing what is right.
yes,
And it's so amazing. Like, I have to say, one of my favorite sort of like character growth for Ramza is how this is something I noted in my brain, is how at the very start of the game, in the mission that Danny's doing, at the end, Ramza's gonna say like, how could these people like why would they choose to be thieves and die as like rats, basically? No one caring about them. It's so naive. And then as it goes on, he learns what makes people thieves. He learns like how the caste system has affected people, and instead of like, a lot of other like nobles sort of just choosing to benefit from that, he follows a sense of justice and decides to forge his own path, um, sticking to his justice. And it's such an amazing character arc.
Yeah, and I thought at first it felt maybe a little on the nose, like expecting it to unravel in a way, kind of the way it does. Delita and Ramza going their own ways. I forgot what I was gonna say. What were we talking about?
Final Fantasy Tactics,
growth
the
and-
PlayStation 1.
trajectory
Power,
of character arcs
justice,
as
character
expected
arcs.
versus
Oh,
how it really
on the
is.
topic, I mean, this is a little tangent, but when you're talking about people being thieves, I loved how even into chapter 4, when it's getting more and more desperate in the later war, there's more and more scenarios that are little filler moments, like leading up to the more important battles, where there's just like farmers attacking you and
Yeah.
Yep.
more of the country going to shit because it's like he's a heretic, he has a bounty, and
Yeah, let's kill him for the bounty because we need it.
Totally. It's super sick. Man.
every little mission had just the right amount of bite-sized story
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
to fill whatever they needed to emphasize.
So
And
I
I
want
really
to
like that some of the missions were more mundane like that, just to get the world set in building.
It's the character, it's the world building. Bro. So
I want to
cool.
keep talking about all this, but just on that note, real quick, the producer here, Matsuno, whatever his first name is, I forget. I'm a Bigfoot.
I'll bring it up.
He was more or less poached from Quest, I think. Yeah, from the
Yes.
Tactics Ogre Battle team. And so he came in and he brought his dudes, and it's funny because when he got there, Hironobu Sakaguchi had like a design document for Final Fantasy Tactics. It was like there's been like interviews where he's joked about it, like, oh yeah, it was my idea, but really it was just like he had the name and some ideas on paper. And Matsuno got in there from Quest, and he basically shit canned the whole thing and just scrapped it from the start and just built this whole thing with his team, which is awesome. But like this type of storytelling and the pacing and the writing is like he this is what he's known for. You know, the way this game is presented, the way the script is, the brevity of the scenes between and preceding battles, like that kind of like immaculate, quick pacing, but there's so much there, you know, and that's why like everybody has said like, I just wanted to see what the next scene was, you know.
Mhm.
Are you sorry? You're talking about the guy, the leader of the Tactics Ogre?
Yeah.
The story
Yeah.
specifically.
Yasumi Matsuno.
Yeah, Yasumi. Yeah, that's it.
I also want to have some questions about the if there's any overlap in this. Speaking of the development team, if there's any overlap in this team and the team that worked on Super Mario RPG, specifically in character art and art in general, because I see so
I
much
don't
Super
know.
Mario RPG DNA in the character animations and stuff, which is one thing I really loved, and sound design and all that.
I'm not sure. I honestly
Yeah,
I
that
don't know.
is-
I'll have to look.
Yeah, because it does say
But
the
if
the battle system. Like it, I'm looking for art because that is a good question.
It's like you see the characters throwing up their hands when they use items and stuff like that. Straight up Super Mario RPG, but the perspective also helps. But
yeah, like the size of the characters is very similar, and
mhm.
they
The way they
kind of
turn
look a little
towards the camera.
clay-like.
Yeah,
Dude, this isn't on pixel art, but some of those scenes, like when Ramza and Delita are blowing the grass,
Oh.
and I can't believe how it's like some of the worst. I mean, fidelity graphically, the lighting is not impressive, but man, they got a really good scene of here and there. The color
Yeah.
palette and the
Well, I
I love that.
I have never
The
seen a game where
presentation, the little dioramas.
sprites animate and like look so good. Like it's weird how old this game is versus like the sprites in battle versus like the sprites in the cutscenes. Like how they articulate is pretty far and
Yeah.
away better than like a lot of sprites I've seen.
And they have a lot of unique one-off animations, and it
Mhm.
always got me curious because they'd be at specific camera angles, so it's like it's not like they have all 4 directions for those moments. So I don't know, it's just interesting.
Dude, I
You
love
would
that
say it.
scene with Delita and Ramza. I love Delita and Ramza so much. I think that's like that scene takes place like right before everything really falls apart with like the way that they look at the world, and they both kind of are realizing that's what's happening, and then Delita and him kind of share that golden moment of childhood that they have between each other. That's like now like they're desperately trying to hold on to, but it's totally falling apart around them.
Yep.
It's excellent. With the voice acting in War of the Lion, it's even better. The voice acting is beautiful, and I think because I played that one first, it like retroactively impacts that scene for me, and it's one of my favorite scenes in the whole game.
I guess that
I'm
is
glad
something
someone brought it up.
I don't think we have mentioned. There is a like I guess it is a port, but it's like it's not a remaster.
It's like an
there's
international version.
yeah, like there's another version of Final Fantasy Tactics for the PlayStation Professional that came out obviously after this. That it has some tweaks and changes. So there are 2 versions of this game. Darth, would you being like our foremost professional, like what does it really shake up the most? Like,
Yeah.
because I am very curious actually.
So the War of the Lions, it rebalances, retweaks some abilities, kind of like minorly, but just there is some rebalancing. Negatively, it makes it so that all the abilities and like job requirements cost way more JP, which kind of sucks.
Interesting.
The translation shifts from less of a, it's decent, but it shifts more into like a Shakespearean English. There's some extra 3D cutscenes. There's a lot of new characters added. What's some other things? That's pretty much
It's wider.
It's wider.
It is wider.
One glaring problem: War of the Lions has like this awful slowdown on all its
It does.
animations.
It's really bad.
It's really awful. But and I'm getting really biased here. I truly love the writing of War of the Lions over this one. It just feels much fuller.
Yes.
I actually prepared 2 interactions in the OG version and in the War of the Lion version to give people like an idea of how the script changes.
Mm-hmm.
I could read it out now or I could read it out later. It's up to you guys, but
I mean, while we're on the topic, like I'd be
Yeah.
interested to hear.
let me go turn my lights on really quick because it got dark in here and I can't read what I wrote.
Okay, while he's doing that, Chris asked a good question. What class was everybody's Ramza? Or Ramza?
Dude, I ran Ramsa on like everything.
He was always physically oriented for me.
Yeah.
Was a ninja for probably the most time, but at the end of the game, I switched him back to his like default squire because his squire kind of gets the ability to wear some knight armor and knight swords. So I gave him.
Yeah, I did that for a
I
bit.
didn't even know that. That's cool.
Yeah, if you press the select button, it says he as a squire can equip stuff other squires can't.
Cool. Dude, there's so much stuff. I learn
Yeah.
new stuff every time I play.
Did you know when you're selecting your ability, you can press left on the D-pad and see where it's gonna like
In
play?
the turn order.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that reminds me, Darth. I have a question for you about something that I could never figure out, but we'll wait
Yes.
until like after your. But
Okay, sure.
mine, like Colin, like said, he was physical based. I was rolling two-hand samurai for a bit because samurai is really weird. I found samurai became a better black and white mage than my black and white
Yeah.
mage, and he hit harder than most of my physical classes. I was like, well, this guy's good, so I rocked him as a samurai for a really long time.
I wish
and then
I wish I knew how to get ninjas and samurais because
Yeah.
Oh.
I
They're the coolest.
I switched him to a knight with dual wield, and because I got Colin and I were talking about this, I got Sid's weapon, which gives you auto haste, and promptly lost it in a like jobber field mission.
Dude, they can
Oh.
destroy
They
your
broke
Excalibur.
my
like, what?
Excalibur, and
Why
I was
is
like,
that a thing?
That's
"Well,
so
fuck
sick.
me, I guess."
That's a
Reset.
reset, bro. You
No,
don't
I
need
like
that.
Chris said, I
No,
like
it's
consequence.
canonical.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, buddy.
It's a
Yeah,
canon event.
thankfully they never destroyed Excalibur for me. But
Oh, they
every time they
just-
destroyed anything permanently, that was one of
Shell
my biggest
bust. Oh.
annoyances.
Yeah,
I kept Ramza a knight, and I used break weapon like once, so that was a really good
Yeah.
pick.
Knights honestly kind of butts in my
Yeah,
opinion.
so like enemy knights seem so fucking good because they can like
Block
break
everything.
permanently.
Yeah, they
and, like,
block
you
and
gotta-
break
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Squire is so good just as a run yell. I would just fall
Yeah.
back on that almost all the time.
That being
Yeah.
said, for the shields and knights, if you attack them from behind, they don't get any bonus from their shield.
Mhm.
So that's how.
Dude, that magic defense shield is so freaking doinked.
Yeah.
Aegis shield.
Yeah. Aegis.
Yeah, man. I
It's
threw
like-
that on my Agrius.
It's like 30 or
and
40%
it was amazing.
magic evade. It's really good. I made my Ramza. I do this every time because it lets me beat any mission I want. I make him a ninja, and I give him the brawler passive, so he attacks with his fists, but he has ninja speed and attack.
I tried doing the inverse of that, and yeah, he was punching like 2 400s in a row
Yeah,
nonstop.
exactly.
It's crazy.
And if you pump his brave too, it's just even higher because brave fixes your punching damage.
Oh, that's crazy. Which I was telling Danny today that if you use cheer up or whatever,
Blew my mind.
it permanently raises their brave by 1 point for each cast. It's
Oh,
so
what?
dumb,
So
dude.
yeah.
That is really dumb.
Every time you increase it by 4, it permanently increases by 1.
Really?
Crazy.
It's 4?
Something like that. 4 or 3. I don't remember.
swear it was 1-to-1. But either
No,
way, you
no.
know.
I ran a ninja with the geomancy attack up
Yeah.
on one of my jobbers,
buddy.
and she destroyed everyone.
You know what, dude? And I had my ninja. This was the first time I did this. I'm just gushing about this thing I made. I kept the ninja with the blood sword because did you guys steal the blood sword?
I saw it and considered it and went, nah, I gotta beat this
God,
game.
you gotta steal it. So my ninja had the reaction where if he gets hit, he goes invisible.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So
Sunken
he was
state.
squishy, sunken state. So he'd get attacked, get to the like 20% HP, disappear, come back, and fully restore his HP with a blood sword, plus whatever other attack.
Oh, you can just keep chaining that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool.
Super cool. Okay, I'm gonna read this thing here. To get it out of the way. I don't think it's that long. It just looks long on paper, so I'm just gonna go for it. So you guys might remember there's the fight where you're fighting Ygraf's sister.
Yes.
I forget her name exactly. It's like let's just call her
Meliadul?
No, Meliadul's
Meliadul's the special knight.
Izude's brother or
It's
sister. or
Milwada.
whatever.
It's Milwada.
Yeah,
Really?
that's it.
So Milwada, she's part of the Corpse Brigade, which are these knights that fought for their country and were promptly discarded when war no longer happened. That's why they became thieves, which is what Ramza learns. And this interaction happens between her and Argus, who we all hate. It's that blonde dickhead.
He is a blonde
One of the
dickhead.
blonde dickhead. There's a few of them in this game. But you know, she obviously being like an extremist, kind of like not anarchist, but like she is extremist in her views towards the monarchy, and he is extreme in his views towards the peasantry, which I think is also just like a really important theme to the entire game, and the main character's story arcs is one of my favorite sort of like back and forths between characters. And I actually think in this case, I just on the whole point of translation. There's a lot of like weird things in the OG game uh, that that sort of don't help you understand the story that War of the Lions fixes. But instead of going through all those little bits that, especially if you guys played it for the first time this time, you probably wouldn't even remember. I
Mhm.
just picked an excerpt between. It's the same thing, but they're both good. But I very much prefer the way it's said in War of the Lion. Anyways, I'm gonna go. So they start fighting for a little bit, and friggin' Milweda says to Argus in the OG, she says, "Who do you think you are? We're not your animals, we're human, just like you. There's no difference between us other than our families. You ever been hungry, with only soup to eat for months? Why do we have to suffer? Because you nobles deprive us of our right to live." Argus retorts, "Human? Ridiculous. From the minute you were born, you had to obey us. From the second you were born, you were our animals." She responds, "Says who? That's nonsense. Who decided all this?" And then he responds, Argus, "It's the will of heaven." She says, "Heaven? God would never say such things. In his eyes, all are equal. He'd never let this happen. Never." Argus then says, "Animals have no God." And she responds with simply exclamation marks, and Delita turns to Ramses saying, "Is this woman really our enemy?" Good. I think that it's still covering the themes necessary, and it's still punchy, and flavorful and character defining. But now I'm going to read you the War of the Lion one, and once again starting with the lady. I always forget her name, Milweda. So she says, "How can you nobles live as you do, yet hold your heads so high? We are not chattel. We are humans, no less than you. What flaw do you hold there to be in us, that we were born between a different set of walls? Do you know what it means to hunger, to sup for months on nut, but breath and bean? Why must we be made to starve that you might grow fat? You call us thieves, but it is you who steal from us the right to live." Argath retorts, "You, no less than human? Or no less human than we? Ha! Now that's a beastly thought. You've been less than we from the moment your base-born father fell upon your mother in whatever gutter sired you. You've been chattel since you came into the world drenched in common blood." She responds, "By whose decree? Who decides such foul and absurd things?" He responds, "It is heaven's will." And then she responds, "Heaven's will? You would pin your bigotry on the gods? No god would fain forgive such sin, much less embrace it. All men are equal in the eyes of God." And then he responds, "Men, yes, but the gods have no eyes for chattel." And then she finally says, "You speak of devils, not gods." And Delita says the same thing.
Oh, that's a great example.
Yeah, that is much better executed and like fleshed out, like an actual conversation.
Yeah, it
And-
does sound better, but I hate how they screwed up the pixel art on the levels.
Shut
Shut up.
Something
they do?
cool about that. Hang on, I want to say this real quick before we get into shit posting. Something cool that they do in the Words Alliance translation, and in general, to it being like a more rich, at cost of being a little bit more verbose
Mhm.
translation that really explores the themes in an interesting way. Generally speaking, there's also more like wordplay. Like you see, there's this whole. They keep talking about chattel and the difference between beasts and humans. You know, nobles versus commoners. Nobles treat commoners like beasts, therefore you are beasts. And they're like, she's like, no, we're not beasts. But in the War of the Lions version, Algus's first retort is like, "Ha, that's truly a beastly thought." It's so like that kind of like retort. There's like literally like fencing with words, like that kind of shit.
Beautiful.
Super cool. Super
Yeah.
cool.
I cannot. It's one of my favorite things in the game. Like the first one, obviously Argas dislikes them, but when he says, "You've been less than we from the moment your base-born father fell upon your mother in whatever gutter sired you," it really like puts in perspective how much he hates commoners.
Yeah, it's like,
versus
wow,
him
this
just
guy's
saying it.
really a bigot.
Almost like
Yeah.
showing and not telling through dialogue. It's something you see a lot I'm sure everyone is like bored, but like in like Shakespeare, like him or not, he always like hides the meaning of his words like in the things he says. So you have to like kind of like look at them, but it allows like a lot of rich storytelling because you kind of like come to these conclusions by yourself rather than being told exactly what characters are thinking or what they're doing. And I feel like most of War of the Lions ends up being the same with the dialogue, but that's probably my favorite, one of my favorites.
Agreed.
I'm a gusher. I love this game.
Yeah, I really did enjoy pretty much most everything, but playing this game, like like the problem is I am a known level scaling hater. I hate it. I think
same.
more often than not it fucks up games. And in this game I had a really unique experience where I realized it had level scaling because my Ramza, like he's kind of better than a lot of units, so obviously he was hitting more, he was throwing stones, like doing that, so he leveled up. And I came across a random mission where there was an archer who's like level 18 and all of my dudes were like level 10 and Ramza was like level 18 or 17 and that archer picked me the fuck to pieces and I was like, what? I'm like, what's going on here? I'm like, oh my god, there's level scaling, isn't there? So from that point I tried to be very like, everybody stays near Ramza doesn't get too high, like I don't want to level up a bunch because I don't want these story missions to start getting wild. So I was rolling like bare bones, like I get these skills that I wanted and not level up too high and just rolling it. And like some of these story missions were just like fucking me up and I was like, oh my god. And it turns out the story missions don't scale. The random battles do scale.
That's what I thought.
Threw me into a weird loop on accident that I didn't want to level because I thought the scaling was universal. So I kind of gimped myself because missions started getting higher and higher level, but I thought that was the intended difficulty curve. So I started getting shit on, but didn't want to level because I thought they were going to get higher level. And I was like, uh-oh. So it led to some very obnoxious spots, like the Gafgarian one-on-one.
That screwed me, dude.
Yeah, well, also, I have another nitpick with that fight. His heal, his Night Sword, if it hits you, my Ramza had 6 health. He had, like, 10 health. And I was like, oh, my mage is going to, like, fire over the, like, wall. It's going to kill him after he kills Ramza. Hits Ramza for 67, heals him for 67. I was like, whoa. I'm like, it did not do that much damage. It hit that hard. So I was like, that's stupid. But that kind of leads me into another one of my beefs is this game. I will say the difficulty curve, well, the lack thereof, suffered. Like the game was hard for me, impossibly hard. Not impossibly because I struggled through it until it wasn't. Like it was, there was no in between. Like I got shit on or I shat on.
Yeah,
like,
for me it felt like it was getting progressively easier in a general sense while having the most random spikes here and there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's some pretty crazy difficulty spikes. The first one was definitely that one-on-one with fuck, what's his name? You just mentioned it.
Gafgarian,
yeah. That one I actually used weapon break and that actually saved me. So that was the one time that weapon break actually helped.
And then you try Weegraph and
I did that too.
Yeah, so the Weegraph fight, I was throwing a tantrum. I had to ask Colin for help. Called Nintendo tip hotline or whatever.
$69.99 an hour.
Yeah, so I got through that with some major cheese. I actually leveled up Ramza 15 times in that fight by running around the map and using
the yell strat.
Yep.
Yeah. Gotta do what you gotta do, bro.
Yeah, yep. And after that point, it was like pretty smooth sailing, especially once I got what's his name with the Excalibur.
Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
TG Sid, Thunder God Sid.
Oh yes, Sid rather.
I didn't use any of those special characters, which also put me in another like vortex of difficulty. But back to what I was saying about like the missions that were hard were intentionally designed to be like obnoxious. Like the
Extremely.
Wheatgrass fight fucking blindsides you. It literally blindsides you. You can go online. Like people say, "Oh, I fucked up my save because I only did one
Well,
save."
that's what I was gonna say. It is so brutal.
Yeah,
I think Final Fantasy VII had one save, if I recall, where like you could beat a boss and then I don't know. The saves and like being stuck in an area were kind of dying off around this year, so to experience that was a little like, oh god.
oh
Well, and
no.
there's like 3 of them in this game.
Yeah, there's a handful.
Totally.
But a lot of the level design, I was talking with Colin about this when I was like, okay, so I flushed this game. I stopped playing. Like if you go back to one of my VODs, you hear me say I'm going to finish Final Fantasy Tactics tonight because I gave it one that I said I'm gonna try because it was that mission with Rafa where she would just die. This was with me thinking that the fights are scaled like to your level, so I was under leveled, and Rafa, I could not save her. Like I just sat there, I lost in that mission for about 6 hours total, and I was
So
like,
that's why you wanted to flush long game. That's why you're done with it.
no, it's a long game. Don't worry. But it was just like, and then everything after that, like this game tries, like I appreciate what this game tries. Like Darth saying, like there's so much complicated, but it falls apart in what you can do and what it tries to do. Like so many missions end up being there's 2 archers and 2 summoners or black mages up on that mountain, and here's a choke or 2. Go get them. And it's just like so many missions were just that. And it like really made me upset that I was like, come on, like get creative. Like there's one mission before the chain of Wheatgrass missions where you're in that library and it's like 4 height difference 3 different times, and it has dragoons and time mages. Like it's a really well laid out mission, and you have to like be careful not to get fucked by the dragoons, and the knights are coming up the stairs.
Yeah,
and
you don't know how far the Dragoon can go unless
yeah,
you're
like
counting
it's
spaces like a
really
nerd.
like well like put together, like with the classes, with the layout, and it, like that's an example of like I had to think about what I was doing. Like it was really nice, and there's so few of those missions in the game that felt like somebody sat down and was like, what classes do we have, how can we make this, rather than here's some summoners up on a platform, they're gonna cast on you until you can get to them. Like, and it was just, I felt like it was such a missed opportunity. Like there were examples of good layout, and then there were tons.
I think the later levels did what you're talking about, but I also can think of a ton of levels that I thought a lot of them revolved around more of a circular layout, you know? Like for instance, that one with the bridge and the waterfall, and there's the little rocks below. Like you can kind of circle, and there's that verticality.
Cool map. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Zelkaria
there's some
Falls
good
or something.
examples of interesting ones, but it really makes the poor, boring ones that you're talking about feel terrible in comparison.
Yeah.
It also
There
made
was-
me think about a lot of the late game missions are kill specific unit and not kill all units,
which is
kind
good.
of
Because they're mean.
yeah,
Oh
but
yeah. Oh yeah. Like
it
that-
also kind of makes
yeah.
it so you just want to rush the singular unit and get them down as soon as possible.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
I wasn't paying attention on the final Elmdor fight where he transforms into Butt Humper or whatever,
Mhm.
and I thought you had to kill all of his dudes, and I was like, "Damn, this is a hard fight." And you know,
he
if I-
starts it
I
out
had-
with death on everybody. You're like,
If I had,
oh.
yeah, if
Right.
I had been paying attention, I would have just murked him and moved on in 3 seconds. Also, I want to say that actually the fight that I died on the most, as in like probably I failed it 4 times, was that library with dragoons, because those dudes will just pop whoever they land on.
Mm-hmm.
So I really liked that mission, but it was also like, damn, they got hands, you know.
It's like, well, fuck, get them away.
The one that
yeah.
fucked me up the most. Sorry, Colin. You go actually.
No, I just had another one real quick. There's like it's in chapter 2. It's not that far on into the game. There's like it's like you're in a mountain pass kind of thing, and there's like summoners and ninjas, and there's like a high part and a low part. The high part's in the middle, and there's low parts on both sides of the map, but it's not quite circular, like holding the
Oh, I know what
same.
you're talking about. Yeah.
Man, I got fucked in that map quite a few times.
Is that the first time summoners show up? Because the first time summoners showed up, I was getting completely fucked.
I think
and I was
so.
like, summoners are overpowered, and I was gonna
Yeah,
Dude,
go on a
they are
tirade,
good.
but at the
float
start.
helps
But by the end,
so
they don't
much.
seem.
Float, yeah.
If you give your boys float and they have like a extra +1 verticality, they're just flying up those mountains,
Yeah.
Skyrim style.
Right, which is, we've talked about it, but again, it's cool that like it presents you with this dick verticality problem, and then it's like, well, we have
There
like
you go.
12
Jump up there.
movement things you could do to fix this if you want to go get them,
Totally.
Before I forget, because I don't know how we haven't talked about it, but the storylines in combat, although it was kind of annoying on replays, I thought that was so freaking cool. It
How they,
helps
like,
sell
talk to
the
each other.
dialogue so well.
Yeah,
That's
when they
that
like
line
stop
that
to
I
talk.
took was from the combat.
Yeah, man.
So
It
cool.
kind of bothered me, only because, like, if you had to redo a mission, it was already long enough because you
Oh
can't
yeah,
just.
that's when they would
yeah,
annoy the heck
You
out of
can't
me, for
restart a
sure.
mission from the menu, and you can't like just quit. You have to like fucking get up, turn up PlayStation off.
Yeah, and listen to the intro. Boom.
Yeah.
You're like, no.
That's pretty cool. But
You just didn't like it because you didn't know what was going on.
yeah, that too.
No, it's just
Darth, you were gonna
that.
say something. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say that the mission that fucked me up the most, and that has always fucked me up the most, is the mission where it's like almost the very end of the game. It's like the second or third last mission where it's all the dragons.
Yeah,
dude.
Colin and I were talking about that.
That mission is fucked up. Like
Those dragons
so
are
fucked
violent.
up. Those dragons are also more threatening in War of the Lion, I believe.
More
Terrifying.
threatening?
Yeah, they are, because you know how like there's like the two brother and sister characters have those weird spells where it's like
Yeah.
on a T section and it
Yeah.
randomly casts it. In War of the Lion, they're buffed. Their spells can hit more times, but furthermore, all those spells have a higher chance of hitting the middle.
Cool.
So those dragons get even fucking buffer.
Well, that's good because those two characters are bad.
Yeah. Oh, they're really good in War of the Lion.
Hmm.
At least I think you can make them really good. I've never used them, but I've heard they're good.
Yeah, that mission didn't bother me that much, actually. I got pretty lucky. But you would never guess the one I had the hardest time with. It was the dam level.
Really?
Hmm.
Yeah, because
yeah.
Ramses says, "Oh, if I hit those switches," and
Yeah.
then so the whole time I'm thinking, okay, get units on the switch. I see the switch.
I did the
Oh, it
same
has to be
thing.
Ramses.
Has to be
okay.
Ramses.
Oh, and then the units have to die on the switch. Oh, my healer keeps getting sniped. Okay, and like I just kept getting the worst RNG. It was. I wish I recorded it so we could all laugh at how terrible it was. I
Like,
think I restarted over 30 times.
The worst possible thing keeps happening over and over again, and you're
Yeah.
like, "What's happening?"
There was
dude?"
a time where the enemy got 3 raises off, and I missed 3 raises in a row.
That's when you
I
flush
never
your
use
white
raids.
mage and
I literally
bring
never
back your
use
chemist.
raids.
Yeah.
It's just not good. I want to say though, all of this shit's happening. You're getting dicked on. You're having to do some grinding, but you're doing it to an absolutely banging soundtrack. Like,
You are. It's true.
like,
It's true,
oh my
Darth.
God. Soundtrack is so good.
I think it's really a 10 out of 10 soundtrack. I just wanted maybe a few more tracks,
Yeah,
personally.
that's fair.
That's it.
That's
Mhm.
fair. I think they're like they're also iconic to me now that every time I hear one I'm like, yeah. But they
You
are,
salute.
yeah, that's right. But there's a bit of repetitiveness, especially like honestly though, like I'll say like grinding in the Mandalia Plains, I literally never got bored of the music. I don't know.
It's Darth's happy place, dude.
Dude, it's my happy place. Okay, guys, I hate grinding in video games. You guys know I'm impatient, but I actually fucking
Zoomer.
love grinding in this game because it's like its own little mini game where you're having everyone smack the shit out of each other and you're like speeding other characters up and let's get brave on this guy, faith up on this guy. It's fucking like crazy.
I
really
can
just
understand that.
accumulating.
I like getting efficient experience in
Yeah,
Fire Emblem.
exactly right. It's like you're trying to like maximize the efficiency, and at the same time, it's not just running random battles and just pressing the A button. It's like still tactical, I guess. I don't know. In a way.
Tactics.
Tactics. Okay, bye.
But it made me laugh, Darth, you saying, like, use a chemist, not a white mage. Because one of my gripes, like in my gripes note, I literally have a note of just gripes. That says class balances all over the place. Some are super overpowered and some are almost useless. And I put, here's looking at you, white mage. And like my example is I put the game makes it obvious by enemy units don't use those classes. Like there's a bunch of classes that the game foregoes because they are just bad. And I'm like, well, if like maybe you should realize that maybe the design, like you see white mages, like when you have white mages early on, and then they're just gone. And then one shows up late into chapter 4, and all he does is desperately try to res enemies and just be useless. I'm like, there
White
you
mages are
go.
good.
I had one for most of the game,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Auto
mostly just
potion.
failed.
Auto potion is like one of the most overpowered reaction skills
Yep.
in the early game. So if your white mage is getting sniped, just give them auto potion and they become invincible, totally invincible. Like if
Oh.
you, assuming they have a good brave stat.
Well, the reason I was thinking my white mage sucks, Darth, I legitimately I tried to figure out the math. I tried to figure out what influences it. I tried to figure out everything. I cannot for the life of me figure out what seemingly randomly makes some spells take more time to cast.
Randomly
Oh,
takes
what?
more time to cast.
So
It's the speed.
no, it is not the speed. Because if it was the speed, it would be uniform and linear. Because randomly, literally randomly, I would have a mage, like, perfect example, my white mage would start, and I would move 2 spaces. Cure would say, take 3 turns. Cure 2 would take 5 turns. And Cure 2, or Cure 3 would take 7 turns. Like, linear. Then, like, the next turn, or, like, I don't know what affected it. Cure would take 3. Cure 2 would take 8. Cure 3 would take 8. And like everything, like some would shift and some
I know
wouldn't.
why. I think I know why.
Oh,
So
please.
so it takes a certain amount of time for you to charge your spell, right?
Mhm.
And
Which is based
it
on the
says-
speed, right?
Yeah, that's right. And it says like you're kind of thinking of it in a set of turns, like turns are linear, but turns just represent when every other character on the battlefield has their action time charging up. You know what I mean? So like if you have a bunch of like ninjas that you're up against, it'll feel like your spells take longer to cast because the ninjas are all
No,
getting
I'm
time.
not even saying how long it takes to cast. I'm talking about that number, like on the screen. Like you know how the magic menu is laid out?
Yeah. Yeah, like how many turns until the spell goes off?
Yeah. So what influences? Because sometimes it would equal out. Like one
Look at
that
the
would
example in
be.
Discord stream.
Oh yeah, thank you. Cool. I was actually going digging for that. So all of those spells have different speeds, or not all of them, but Cure, Raise, Protect, and Shell all have the same speed. Cure 2 and Cure 3 have different speeds. So
Oh, but they're all
why
taking
did
speeds.
Cure take longer to cast, but now Cure 3 takes less time to cast? Like those 3 spells have different speeds.
I'll tell you my take
Yeah.
on why I think it is. It might not be true. So I think the reason it's saying it's going to be 6 turns. So there are 6 characters like ahead of this spell being cast, right? Is basically what it's saying,
Damn it, Call.
right? So so that being said, like if there's kind of like cuz turns are so like dynamic in this game because like if you move that takes up extra time to like for another turn.
Yeah, like your turn
Right.
comes around slower.
Versus just wait in.
Exactly, right? So there's like act, move, and just waiting. And so what that means is that based on the way that everyone, I think it's called CT, charge time.
Yeah.
Based on the way that everyone's CT is shaking up on the battle, it does not matter what spell you cast because there's going to be like a giant CT like sink when the spell is going to be cast. So it doesn't matter what the speed of the spell is. It's that nobody is taking a turn anytime fast enough where the speed of the spell is going to change when it goes off.
Well, this is actually getting into one of the issues where I was like, why doesn't this game have a turn order at the top of the screen somewhere? Like, okay, that's not standardized. But like, do they want us to actually think of the nitty gritty nonstop and like calculate this stuff? Or do they want us to just hit left on the D-pad? Because that's what I did. And
That's
just
what I
didn't really
did.
think about it much.
I mean,
Yeah.
did you know you can pull up the whole turn order?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what I'm getting at.
Mhm.
That I would just do that.
Yeah. For me, it was, and maybe this is for everybody too, or the casual player, or whatever. I often was just kind of rolling with what was in front of me and not super sweating the turn order, but there were times when I definitely did need to pay attention to it. Like, oh, I want to take out this enemy first because they're going to do something dangerous. And if I have a coin flip, which one do I fight first?
I had
Yeah.
to do it almost every magic cast toward the end, and then
Yeah.
look at the names of the enemies.
Is this gonna
and
kill
make
this guy
sure-
before he gets his turn?
Yeah.
You want to know why I bet that is because literally after every single person takes their turn, it would probably like significantly change the turn order for the entire battle. So it'd be like shifting around constantly, like all the time.
Mhm.
That actually makes
After-
sense, yeah.
After every single person goes, it's like, okay, now this guy's gonna go.
Because it
before me.
literally changes every turn, or like
Yeah.
action, yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and then like, I think also to just kind of like rearticulate what Darth was saying about the CT, you get your turn when your CT gauge, and this works for every unit, gets to 100, but moving takes 80 and acting takes 60, and if you move and act together, it takes all 100. So you can use up to all 100 of your CT, or if you like just wait, you are only using like 50 of your CT or whatever. You know what I mean? So like you can get your turn back faster. So like the
Yeah,
whole
I didn't know
whole
those were the
schema is-
numbers.
yeah. Well,
but I
and
did
nor did I,
feel
but
it.
it's like that's an image from the mechanics guide on GameFAQs. But the point is, it's all so dynamic, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, the only time I worried about turn order was when I was in the Y-Graph fight, and I was just checking it to see how many moves I had that he, like, because I stacked up speed so high that I had like 7 turns or whatever.
Totally.
So that's the only time I used turn order.
Yeah.
Before we move on from white mages, real quick, I ran holy and half magic, and that shit was omega.
Yeah,
tank.
holy is pretty
Oh,
nice.
holy goes so hard.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Flare too. Flare's fucking.
Oh yeah, I love
Yeah,
Flare.
flare with short charge. Sweet.
Yeah.
Flare saved me.
You can
like,
just
it
kill
was-
any enemy on the map whenever you want. It's super sick.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't think I would have really struggled without like Flare and Orlando at the end.
Totally. And like the more that you play the game, the more you learn about those really specific things that are really strong, and it just makes the game like easier and easier, but more satisfying
Right.
Yeah.
over time. Trust
But
me, trust
my
me.
only gripe with that system is my white wage would randomly just be useless. Like, because it would be like, okay, I can at least cast Cure. It's my quickest spell. Boom! All of a sudden, Cure takes as long as Cure 3. I'm like, well, I guess I'm just fucked now.
It was
and-
weird.
And I had somebody
relying on
die.
summon.
Somebody die for good because I was like, oh, raise 3 turns. Like it's a speed, like whatever. And I get to the thing and raise it casts 9. And by the time that rolled around, my unit was
Oh,
dead.
that's such
And I
a
was
bad
like,
feel, dude.
Okay, cool. But it was just like I was saying, like I don't have any like super major complaint about this game. It was just like so many things just kept piling up, and I was just like, I'm so fucking over. Like, I'm gonna play it for another hour, and something else is gonna irritate me.
Did you guys know that there's a accessory you can steal from an enemy? Kind of like, I think it's like around like chapter 3, and it's only for females, and it gives the character who equips it auto re-raise and auto regen permanently, so they can just never die.
You're a cheater.
It's pretty
That's
good.
kind of what my white mage had. They had the re-raise accessory, but also regen.
Oh, the re-raise was great. The angel ring.
Yeah.
Yeah, the angel ring's good.
Is there only one of those accessories in the game, Darth? The one you steal
I
from that lady?
think so. You have to steal it from Miliadul.
Yeah.
I
Are
think.
there any items that only male characters can use? Because I found a lot of handbags that were female
That's
specific,
such
which
a
is
silly
really
thing,
it's so
dude.
Offended.
Like the fucking handbags, the females only. Like what? Male only items. I don't think there are
Power
any.
tools.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Lawnmower.
Bob Vila's a guest character.
Hot Wheels.
Yeah, I don't
Uh,
think there are.
in regards to what you're just saying, Donnie, one thing I forgot was, well, I sort of mentioned it, but I do really enjoy that the permadeath has this 3-turn time limit on it. I thought that was a really good balance of keep permadeath, but don't make it as infuriating. Like trying to wrap up a mission before your dumbass.
You see it on
unit
0, you're like,
kills
please
away.
God, let this next
Yeah,
hit.
that is a really cool feeling.
Yeah.
I do really like that, even though so many missions were lost to and they're crystal now. Okay.
Yeah, I like the permadeath too, but like yeah, raise his ass. Never use it like ever. It's ass, and it will fail you every time. Always gotta use the Phoenix Downs, which is kind of lame. That's like one. If I have to say it, my gripe with the game is
He's
that
saying it.
the a lot of the classes don't measure up nearly. Just knowing everything I do, knowing everything I know, some of the classes just their action skills don't measure up worth a goddamn to some other ones. Like
Yep.
I almost never use magic because all the martial classes are fucking way better. Like Monk is like he does more damage than like any other class, and he has
Well,
like
that She-Monk, huh?
and like the Monk also has effing like
Chakra.
he's got better support skills than White Mage as well.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
stupid. It's stupid. So I actually challenged myself. I did War of the Lions playthrough where I only used magic. I didn't beat it, but I got really far, like past the hard fights. And honestly, it was a lot fucking harder. Like they kind of suck. It's kind of unfortunate that it kind of hurts the replayability, but conversely, when you know a lot about the game, you can find ways to make the shitty classes still like usable and good. It's
I
just
wasted so
more
much time leveling up a Dragoon
I love
or
Dragoon.
Lancer. I think they're cool, but man, it didn't pay off.
Their abilities are so lame.
Yeah,
Dragoons
they're
are like my
pretty-
favorite Final Fantasy class, and
Dude, me too, and they're
they're
so
just
bad.
a little yeah. So I'm
I
gonna run the samurai two-hand ability with the spear, and it's gonna pop off, and
Dude,
then
that's
they
what I
just
did
walk
too.
out of the tile, and I'm like, okay, I
yeah.
just spent like 2,000 JP on this, but
Like
okay.
100%, you could just make everyone a ninja and just win. But it's also like just really cool to still try mixing it. Like I had a samurai that was a dragoon, and her jump fucking sucked. But whenever it popped off, I was like, yeah.
Yeah. I think my difficulty with the game really just was my own stubbornness, wanting to make bonehead units. And I'd rather have that freedom and annoyance than no freedom and a boring
Yeah.
tactical
I-
strategy game.
I agree. It's super interesting. Just maybe not super satisfying for a first playthrough, but
Yeah,
it does make me want to play it again.
first
Yeah.
playthrough kind of it definitely like boils down to some cookie cutter stuff. Like everybody's gonna have move to, anybody who casts is gonna have short charge, etc. So forth.
Yeah, I threw Move 2 on so many people.
It's so good. It's so good.
Speaking of wanting to replay, I want to replay 12 for the first time since it came out.
Oh,
Yes.
gross.
Dude,
I mean-
okay. You know what's
Oh, yeah, I
really
forgot you
sad
don't like
about 12? The guy who wrote this game and Tactics Ogre, he like, I'm sorry, this is not a 12 stream, but like, he wrote the first part of 12, and the first part of 12 is so good, and you can see that it doesn't follow through at the end, which is like endlessly disappointing to me. It's like the
Mm.
most disappointing thing ever. But I still think that game's fucking sick. And in War of the Lion, can I spoil this?
Go for it.
I won't spoil it. I won't spoil it.
This
Play
isn't
it.
really a spoiler.
Play it. Hold it. Play it. Just play it.
I mean, I did play it through. I just don't remember it at all.
You get
He-
Balthier. It's so fucking cool. He shows up and oh, it's so sick. I use him every time because I fucking love that dude.
This game is sort of related, Darth. I think this game is easily the best Ivalice game.
I agree. Absolutely agree.
which is really something because the Evil East world has so much potential for like interesting stories, and I think all the stories in there have been interesting, but this is the best executed by a mile.
I agree completely. I'm pretty sure Final Fantasy Tactics takes place like after Final Fantasy 12 too. It's
Wait, where are the other entries?
It's 12 Tactics Advance for sure, maybe 2. I don't know. Game sucks.
There's like that weird like
I mean,
RTS one.
Tactics
like,
Advance is weird. It's we can talk about it because it's kind of like meta non-canon, but it is in Evil East.
I booted it up for just for a few minutes the other day, and you start the game throwing snowballs.
At dumb-looking kids.
Yeah.
Oh,
It is,
what the heck?
it is quite the tonal shift.
The tone is so off-putting coming right from Tactics. I'm
Yeah,
like, dude.
absolutely.
I will say there is some nuggets of like really awesome like character moments and themes in that game, but it just does not measure up like at all.
I will say somebody who was a miser like me with this game played this game while making that game because in the first 3 missions of that game, they fix about a third of my gripes of this game. Like, it's pretty wild. Like, one of my complaints is on cast order. Like, Tolden, you mentioned the cast screen turn order thing. So if a summoner casts on you or near you, you can't tell. And it cycles very quick. Like, the units, when they pick what they do it fast.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm like, wait, what? So I had a moment where a summoner had cast it on Ramza and I didn't know, and I moved him into my party and I got blown the fuck out. And I had no way of telling because in the
There are
turn
2
order
frames of a yellow tile.
does not tell you if they're casting on you or near you. And Tactics Advance does that. And when you cast in an AoE, like if you cast fire, there's 4 mobs like in a like square shape, and like you cast in the middle and it's gonna hit all 4 of them. You can't tell what damage it's gonna do and what the hit percent is on those mobs that it's gonna hit. You can see that it's gonna hit them, but you can't tell like if it's worth it, like what the chance is. Tactics Advance, you hit the shoulder buttons and it shows you each one of them. And I'm like,
you cast. Sorry.
oh no, go ahead.
I'm gonna say, and then you cast the spell, and then this guy shows up, and he's like, "Red card! Your character goes to jail and loses permanent stats."
And when you cast the spell, I'm not gonna defend the law system. That shit sucks. When you cast the spell casts. Like, so you can actually, reliably count on casting your spells. So, does it take away a little bit of that planning? Yes.
Baby
But
game.
also, it takes away out that random guesswork of, oh, this turn, it's going to take me 9 turns to cast Cure. Like, well.
Man, I feel like I already said this, but if this game just was faster, or if it just had the standard Fire Emblem hold B button, or an option to not show the animations, so many of these gripes I have wouldn't feel as intense.
Yeah,
Oh.
I agree. It drags sometimes. But...
And I don't like not being able to, like, I feel like this could have just been a decision of the team, or they changed it in advance because it was an oversight. Once you move, you are locked in. And it's like sometimes there would be a confusing factor that caused one of my people to miss, or a weird line of sight thing. And I didn't know until after I moved. And I was like, well, I guess I'm just fucked now. Like, I didn't like that. But Tactics Advance and Fire Emblem, like, you can move your character, see your attack range and what influences it from there. And if like something goes awry, like, you can change your move, like you can back it out. Like, does it make it easier? Yes. Does it provide better information? Also yes. So it's like was that their choice? I don't know, but for quality of life and like it's more seamless experience, I much prefer the latter, like being able to pull the move back.
Mm.
Kind of a unrelated question. How much Tactics Ogre is in this game? Like, mechanically, how similar are they?
Not super similar, to be honest, in my opinion. Like the way that the classes work is pretty much completely different. Tactics ogre games typically they focus a lot more on like facing, and it's much more like grand scale battles, like 10 units versus 10 units. Like it's not. It's more like you're fighting with an army rather than like a party of like adventurers, I
Okay.
guess. So it's a bit more zoomed out. I don't know, Colin. What do you think about that?
I'm not as well versed in those games. I haven't played one in a long time. But that sounds right. Like from my time with Let Us Cling Together, which is the SNES one. Yeah, I remember having more units. There's like weird nuances with how the classes level up that didn't make any fucking sense to me, and I
Yeah.
needed to like read a guide to understand it. So this game, you can tell that it was made by the same people. They make complex ass games.
Mhm.
You know, it's like if you wanted to be one of those people who likes the romancing saga games or whatever. It's like those are obtuse, but they're done on purpose. 'Cause
One
they
of
hate you.
those.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I always saw tactics like this game. I just imagined it to be impenetrable. So it is a lot more accessible than I expected, but also
It's got so much depth to it.
yeah.
Which is good for the game for me. I understand why it kind of like pissed you guys off sometimes, but it's just like I don't know.
Yep.
I got the blinders on, man.
No.
Going back to my experience with Fire Emblem as a kid, like I lost so many good units. I remember starting the game over from the last chapter. Like,
Yep.
I had that little kid patience, and like that, that's why I have bias. So I totally see how you could have a similar feel growing up on this game.
Totally.
And I know Danny and
I
I both
appreciate both.
beat Fire Emblem 7 like 50 times. Or some
9
shit,
million
you know?
times.
Yeah.
Same here. I beat Final Fantasy this, yeah, 1,000,000 times. Or Fire Emblem, I should say. 7.
So Danny, did you play Tactics Advance in your life before playing this? Like, what was your first Final
No,
Fantasy?
I actually
Tactics game?
it was this game.
But when you
Because
were
you
like,
said before 9, right?
Yeah.
nice.
Which,
So
by
I
the
was
way,
young.
similar tones and political zoom out, and there's a little overlap. Just saying.
This game just goes all in on like matching the art with that tone, you know, the dark tone. Whereas Final Fantasy 9, the tone often clashes with the art. in the
Yeah,
game.
Oh,
like there's a lot
that's why I
of
wanna
upbeat kind of.
Say, even when you were mentioning the cutscene being Western, I felt the same exact way about the music being a different composer, and just just tonally very serious and gritty
Well,
compared to
it's funny.
normal
Like
Final Fantasy.
there's an absolute reason for that because, like Colin was saying, like Matsuno who came in and was just like, no, like it's gonna be like this, because Sakaguchi originally, like, what does this say? His original concept was for the narrative, like he had a wish for the narrative to emulate a swashbuckling sense of heroism, and he was like, no, it's going to be morality based, about hierarchies and like the class based societies. And he said he derived that from his experiences through game production companies, like seeing how like senior designers were like the end all be all. It's going to be like this. You're just a plebe. Like you don't get to tell us. Yeah. So
Is there like a video on this? A good article, or I would love to read up on
Dude,
that.
it doesn't surprise me at all. I bet he based his sort of like depiction of angels and God in this game like the same way, because like it kind of takes like the SMT route where they're like angels and they kind of exist to like control humans, and they're kind of like an even higher power above the royalty. And I freaking dig it when games do that, take that stance, and I think it adds to that sort of dark, sort of like theming that you guys are talking about. It's one of my favorite type of like sort of like supernatural demons, angels, whatever you want to call it, just them existing in that way. I just dig that so much. Sad to say it.
Yeah, it's actually funny you bring that up. I like that this game. Oh god, I just looked over at my gameplay. Don't ever use the tutorials in these games. It locks you in. You are there.
Oh wait, okay. Can I say something that's really funny?
Yeah, go ahead.
That guy's name is Darlavon, and it's really slow and annoying. And the orator has a spell called
Oh, I saw that.
Mimic Darlavon, and it puts things to sleep.
That's so funny. I
Yeah,
thought
okay.
I thought Darlavon was like one of the tavern keepers or something. I didn't realize it was the tutorial dude. That's so funny.
That is
Yeah.
really good then.
But sorry, Danny. What were you gonna say?
No, I was how you were saying like sometimes stories lean into like the angels, demons, like holy, like higher powers and stuff. This game, I think like I will gush about this game's story execution because I fucking loved it. The Zodiac stones, I love that there were just enough of this like taste of the gods to fuck everybody up. Like it would just give you this little boost that made you think you were king shit of Turd Mountain, but you were still humanish. Like they even touch on that. They're like, wait, what, wasn't Lucavi immortal, like a god? But like they never, because a lot of the times like Final Fantasy games devolve into you're fighting like you or JRPGs. Like there's a joke like 4 kids get together and kill God. Like this game didn't fall into that because everybody stayed relatively human, but just with this extra little touch of like power, like that could be considered otherworldly or holy. And it did such a good job of just like skirting the line.
Yeah, and it was so grounded, being a recounted story. I just
love
love
that
that
framing,
aspect
dude.
of it too. Yeah,
Mhm.
the framing.
And it just comes back around to like the whole thing being themed around power and people manipulating others and being manipulated themselves. And I think that like I always forget his name. You know, the dude who wrote the game. The way that he creates these kind of like these political cloak and dagger, very like dramatic stories is just so excellent. And I gotta say, when you play the game multiple times too, and you start to really know like, hey, this guy works for that guy, and you're like, the story becomes a lot clearer too the more times you played it.
Oh, I'm sure.
And it's really good. I every single time I play, I'm like, oh, you know, I never realized that they worked for that guy. Like every single time.
Yeah, or there's like new depth to the lines you didn't appreciate before.
Yeah,
like,
you're
oh,
like,
he's also this like third meaning, you know?
Yeah, like, oh, these guys were friends like 20 years ago, and then that event, like, fuck their whole shit up. It's
Now
like,
he's playing the grass with her.
it's because there's really good. It's just good world building. It's just good.
Maybe if I play it a second or third time, I'll understand even the basic premise.
Play War of the Lions. Do it.
So
Okay.
it's just real quick, speaking on the game itself being, you know, pretty grounded experience. I really loved how the whole backdrop of the game is a very, very real, like in the Middle Ages sort of thing, like
Mhm.
the outcome of war. You know, there's
Yeah.
no money, there's no jobs. So what do people do? You know, not everybody's gonna turn to banditry, but people will because they don't have any food. And
Yeah,
what are they?
like
gonna
you're
do,
desperate,
know?
you're gonna do what you have to do.
And the nation's out of money. They have no resources. Everybody's dead. You know, it's just awesome. You
Yeah.
know,
I agree. And on top of that, it takes that kind of like because it's deeply like political and historical, and the whole kind of like overarching like perspective on how the story's unfolding takes that route because Ramza does all this stuff. He literally saves the world, and his entire like existence is written over by the church and by the monarchy, and Delita is the hero because it's like the winners kind of like choose who was the wrong side and who was the right side, and it's like Ramza's whole adventure, nobody even hears about it, and then basically, I don't know if you guys, maybe people who played the game multiple times got this, but the weird Mohawk guy that is Sid's son, his
Yep.
descendant finds stuff about Ramza, and he and he releases it like hundreds of years later, and it causes like this huge scandal.
Oh yeah, and he gets
like,
burned at the stake.
gets burned at the stake for
Yeah.
it because the church didn't want basically people knowing that the church fucked everyone over so bad, basically. And I think that's kind of like the perfect linchpin of how corrupt like the society is like Ramza didn't even really change anything. You know, it's just so sick.
Well, so,
Can I briefly correct you? It was the right idea, but so the guy who got burned at the stake was the Sid's like son-in-law.
That is the Mohawk guy. Okay.
Yeah. So
Oh,
like
gotcha.
several years after the end of the game, he puts the whole thing into, which is
But yeah.
it's like the intro, like weird narrative, like the little poem, you know, sword, whatever, in stone, all that shit. It's
Mhm.
kind of making reference to this like new history. So anyway, he recounts everything that happened a couple years, and he takes it to the church. They burn him at the stake and hide the whole report. And then Alislam or Erislam, depending on which version you're playing,
Yeah,
is the
who
descendant.
starts like the
Yeah.
story?
Yeah,
Yes.
but otherwise, yes.
So cool.
Yeah.
So cool. I love it.
Which is also something that the church 600 years ago certainly would have fucking done or did.
Yeah, I was about to say, or did.
Classic.
Well, and
Classic JRPG.
this is kind of going in circles, but you know, like Delita kind of sacrifices his humanity, and Ramza literally sacrifices himself for humanity, regardless of like not having a good reason to, and like despite how zoomed out, how terrible things end in the grand scheme of things. It's like it ends on a very good feeling of like you did the right thing.
And he gets what he wanted in the end too, really. Like he
Yeah.
got to live his life peacefully with his sister. Like they just got to fuck off after all that. You know, like it worked out
Got
for
me
them.
slightly in my feels.
Right?
Oh yeah, that
like,
ending hits.
Yeah.
I heard an interpretation of that ending that was like, or maybe it's just a figment of
Olin's
Oran's.
imagination.
Yeah, and they're totally dead.
Who knows?
Oh yeah.
I think I prefer to think that he that he survived and was like rewarded for not becoming a dickhead like every other person.
Yeah.
Um,
You mentioned something earlier, Darth, about like it's sort of playing on the idea of history is written by the victors, that kind of well-worn statement. And so the history that is being upended here is that Delita was the hero of the story.
mhm.
But to the credit of the story writing and the credit of him as a character, he does succeed in his ambitions
Mhm.
to overthrow and disrupt the whole caste system. He becomes the commoner king, and he is a hero, but he also is. It's one of those like gray things, right? Where how many people does he murder or betray? But then you also see him like he didn't kill that assassin from the church, right? At the end, you see her; she's alive. So,
Yeah, they frame it like he did.
yeah, like it cuts away and you hear her scream like, "Oh shit, she's dead!" But maybe he just like wounded her to make it look like she survived, that kind of thing, so she could like plausibly deny the fact that she didn't have the guts to try to kill him.
Mhm.
It's just God, dude. This game's story is so fucking good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super good. I think it's because the characters are just super well written and
Yes.
respected throughout the entire story. No one gets like MacGuffined at any point, and everyone's given a lot of respect. Like Ramza's whole, like I think he's probably one of the coolest main characters in any Final Fantasy game. He's fits so
Yeah,
well
he's the
into
new
the world.
favorite of mine for
Mhm.
sure.
Fits so well into the world. I also love how he's like he represents kind of like neutrality. His like mom was a commoner, but his dad was like one of the biggest dick nobles around, and
Right, and he doesn't get the full respect from
Yeah.
anyone either.
Yeah, I
That's
think
right.
every time that he gets brought up, they're like, "Oh, well, you're half royalty. Like if
Mongrel.
it weren't for our dad, like you wouldn't have been nothing." It's like, well, fuck you
And
too.
I like to think that humbles him and turns him into a person of good morals. And,
Yeah, because I mean, he keeps his commoner friend Delita. Like he's like, screw you guys, you're mean.
and I gotta say, it's like so painful. It was really painful for me the entire time I played this game the first time. I wanted their friendship to come back, and it just never did. and it hurts,
It hurts on a weird level too,
bro.
because
It-
it's not like this weird like backstab or anything. It's just this weird.
We're
don't even know
never
what you
gonna be
call
on
it.
the same path. Like it's
Yeah.
never gonna line up.
Yeah, it's sad, man. It's sad. It's sick.
It'd be like if Danny decided to be a juggalo, you know?
Yeah.
Hey, but what if I'm
What's
just
that?
down with the clown? Hatchet salesman.
There
Jeez
is-
Louise.
To go back real quick on a serious characterization note, that scene after the first battle, you get a cutscene where you see Beowulf monarch die, whatever, not his monarch, right? I can't
His
think
like
of the word I
dad,
want.
right?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
but what he says to Ramza is really potent in that scene. It's great foreshadowing for the game. Like, teach these brothers of yours what it means to be a knight. Don't
Yeah.
stray from the path of virtue and justice, and don't make concessions in what you believe to be right, which is exactly what his brothers do and exactly what Delita
Mhm.
does. And Delita does that and succeeds in his mission, but also just like becomes Dystarg essentially.
Why
who-
does he tell Ramza specifically that? Because I don't remember that moment too well.
I think he sees himself in Ramza.
Right.
Like,
Could be, yeah.
because like he is known, like throughout the story, like there's blips of it where people really respect.
Yeah, a
Ramza
lot of people
dad.
like say, "I see your dad in you." Like
Yeah, I
what
remember
Ramza's
that,
doing.
yeah.
Because his dad is a fucking badass, sick dude.
Balbaness or whatever, Balbanes.
Which is why it's so cool that Sid is just such a monster, because like he and Balbaneth are like peers, right? In
Mhm.
that they are peerless, more
His
or
dad
less.
was the one who got moss fungus, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
by Dystarg.
Which is a
Fucking
cool,
awful.
I don't even
Twist.
know, fictional, sci-fi, whatever. I don't know. It's cool.
Yeah, that whole scene where Zalbag kind of like he hears
Pieces it
that from
together.
someone who, and he's like, "Oh, you're just fucking with me," and he's like, "Am I fucking with you?" And then
Yeah,
he-
maybe you want to
see
check out
him-
that grave.
Yeah, you like see him suss it out, and he's like, "Dude, it's true. What?" You know?
He hires that generic chemist. I like that.
Yeah, throws the quarter. Okay, mister. I'm like, what is it? Short round? Okie dokie, Dr. Zalbag. Like,
Yeah,
But-
it's cool, man. It's just cool how like all the characters just revolve around the central theme of the story. I'm just going in circles. It's a circle jerk now.
Well, I think it's a testament to a very tightly written and executed story. It knows someone shoot that bot. It knows its
Too scared to click.
its scope, right? And it knows what it can and can't get away with, and it knows the message it wants to deliver in that scope, and fucking knocks it out of the park. And Chris, I'm really sad you didn't catch the story, because it's like the best part of the game.
True.
I got some of it. I don't know. I got a smooth brain. I don't know.
No, dude. The first time I played this game, I don't know what the fuck was happening.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
There's so many names and so many like groups. Like there's so many important characters that like show up like one time. Like extremely important characters. Like the entire like the heir to the throne, who's like basically like on the same level as the Princess Ovelia. He
Mhm.
doesn't even show up a single time.
Yeah, he gets mentioned
Talked
in
about,
like
yeah.
3 cutscenes, and like that's about it.
Or what about the dude with the 2 assassin chicks that you see in the beginning? He doesn't show up for a really long time. I don't know
Elmdor?
his name. Yeah.
Till he's on the roof with his waifus and fuck that mission.
Yeah, and I was like, whoa, how do I get the assassin class? And he can't. And I was sad.
So real quick, like on that topic of that there being characters and there's a lot of names and shit. There's a lot to remember. There
Mhm.
certainly is, and I only know this because I have listened to a very thorough retrospective, and they walk through all of it. And so like I have played it a bunch of times, and I've had lots of time to like sink into the story and really see the players and stuff. So Chris, don't feel bad that it was overwhelming, because it is.
It is.
But one
It is.
thing that's really cool is that if you like any town you go into, you can go to the pub as opposed to the shop or whatever. And if you listen to the rumors there, they will give you like backdrop information that kind of
Mhm.
sets the stage for what is happening.
Yeah.
What the characters are doing. You can refresh on the 50 Years War and like who was involved in that, and why there's now this like succession issue, which is how you even get to the War of the Lions to begin with. You know, so like to the testament of the game itself is really what we're talking about here, why it's good or not good. I think that's an excellent way to make sure the player has the ability, if they want to supplement the narrative that's being fed to them with additional stuff that helps it land.
Totally. Like you could get like, because it's like a really complex story, but they still give you like the tools to understand it even on your first playthrough.
Also,
If
there's
you
that
really want
encyclopedia I was too lazy to read through.
Yeah,
That
there's
it has
so
good
much.
info. Like that is good. Like if the tutorial things are sometimes very bad, those were all very solid.
Yeah. Super solid. Friggin', did you guys unlock like many of the optional characters?
No.
No,
Okay, fair enough.
just because I was going for completion percent.
Mm-hmm.
I naturally unlocked that island from the bar and some of the prerequisites where I learned you can unlock crazy stuff in the game after beating it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And then I
have no idea what you're
realized, wow, why did I go all over the map trying to figure this out just because it's some stupid cloud Easter egg that's insane.
and he's bad too.
He starts at level 1. It's so ass.
That's so funny. I didn't know that.
You need to like go to this other random map just to get the weapon. Like it's fucking stupid. It's so dumb, but it's kind of sick. Kind of.
What's the deal with the second option in the bar, the thing where you send people away
Oh,
for missions?
propositions?
Yeah, I did that once and I didn't see the point of it.
They
Like,
come
I got
back
this
with
really cool
rewards.
treasure spear, and I'm looking
Yeah.
through my inventory for this spear, and then, oh, it's for your treasure hunter rank. Okay.
There's so much little extra things too, like the hunter's den. You don't really have to engage with it, but you can. The random missions you send people out on, they can unlock characters if you do the specific ones.
Mhm.
I think.
okay.
Yeah.
I might be getting War of the Lion mixed up, but I'm pretty sure like you get Beowulf that way. And the dragon character as well.
Yeah, his wife, Dragon Mommy.
I
Jeez.
read what I thought was a really cool detail I never noticed, which is apparently the random encounters, depending the direction you enter them, affects the layout.
Mm-hmm.
That's
and
cool.
Did you guys do that fucked up random encounter with all the dragons and behemoths? Did anyone run into that one?
Isn't
No.
that just like a level
Maybe.
scaling thing?
I
Yeah,
do
it's
remember
level scaling
dragons
for
and
Fallen.
behemoths and rando. Yeah.
It's not far out of the city of Gog, whatever, like, which is a really cool location. I just want to say. There's a fight where it's like on that mountain where you first fight the summoners. You know the one. Like they're like on the top of the mountain and you like try to go up.
Oh
and
yeah.
they fucking wreck you. So on that mountain, straight up, it's like 6 dragons and like 4 behemoths and 1 chocobo, and they will fuck you up.
That's messed up.
It's probably
No,
one of the
I never
hardest
fought
fights
that
in the
one.
game. It's like a really rare encounter, but every time I play the game, I want to try to beat it because I'm like, it's not like super challenging for the most part whenever you like grind and know all the best stuff, but that fight is always challenging as hell.
Those dragons still clap, man.
Bro, they go so hard. Their breath attack is crazy. Oh my god, they're so tanky too.
Yeah, they have like 400, 500 health. I'm like, wait.
Totally. Like, the difficulty, it gets easier at the end, but there's like an optional dungeon that's so beyond fucked up, it's like not even funny.
Oh, I saw that too. So that's in the base PS1 game as well.
I'm not actually sure, because I only ever did it in War of the Lions, and I didn't even bother with it in this one, so I'm not sure if it's in this one, to
Interesting.
be fair. Do you know, Colin? If it's in the first one? I
What was
honestly
the question? I'm sorry.
Are the dark dungeons in the first one, or is that in War of the Lions?
Oh, I don't know. I've never done it. I know it exists. I just don't know in which version.
Play War of the Lions next time, and there you go. You can try it, but you probably won't like it. It's not. You have to have like. It's not fun.
You
Oh,
didn't
so it's
sell
just
me
like the
at all.
PS1.
Dude,
Got
it's like 10 levels of mega boss level like encounters. Like you can only imagine. You can't see the terrain. It's fucking stupid. But it's like I don't know. It's like
It's
kinda
meant
cool
to be stupid.
I would never do it more than once. I will say. It's like just to do it. It's good. It's good, but it's also bad.
I was gonna say something I can't remember. I'm losing my mind.
I know I've been circle jerking the story for so long I forgot my other talking points.
Here,
I like
we're
I like that you can see the weapons that you use in combat. That's pretty cool. Like every single.
Oh my god, I remember it
Yeah.
was something like that. Keep talking.
keep going, keep going.
Fuck.
Dragon
I like how I mean, we already talked about it, but I
Nah,
love
it's gone.
the characterization for all the sprites, like all the different looking characters, and how there's like female versions and male versions.
Mm-hmm.
They're all
Art
really
style is
fun.
amazing.
Yeah.
I love these character sprites so much.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Did
those
you
I
are
like
guys-
And I love
Rams's
the
lack of a nose.
just
Yeah,
the
right.
look of the like. It's interesting because I always shit on HD 2D or whatever they call it, that disgusting.
It's not disgusting.
Watch your fucking mouth.
But like the marriage of 2D and 3D in this game works so well. Like
You know
in-
why
at
it is,
240p because
Chris?
it's low res 240p on a CRT.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The pixel resolution matches the game resolution perfectly.
like
I love that
cohesive.
aesthetic.
I'm shaking.
And then like no matter like when it shifts to the angle, like you can tell the models were like, I don't know, perfectly designed for the angle, that the isometric angle, and it just looks fucking great.
No, I definitely do see where you come from with that, because it does. Like, I do love the look of this game.
I think it's cool how the animations kind of like show what's going on with your character too.
Mhm.
Like it helps you keep track of the battle. Like if your character's they're either moving really fast or they're slowed or they're crouched on the ground because they're damaged, it helps give like the visual cue of like how the battle's going. I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, if they're hasted, they're just like hustling in place.
Yeah,
They're getting ready to beat some ass.
Did you guys have to struggle with that mission where it's like they throw ninjas at you for the first time and they just fuck you up?
yeah, because they're like twice as fast as any other
Yeah.
unit you have. You're like,
So
oh.
Stupid. So overpowered. It's like, oh shit, they're throwing the same shit at me that I throw at it. Oh.
Yeah, my note for that says ninjas throwing items and one-shotting characters after hours of grinding. Cool.
Yeah. You just grind it as a knight. That's so tough, man.
Yeah.
That's so
Just
tough.
get catch item, dummy. Come on, what are you
There's
doing?
also a hidden stat growth mechanic in this game that you guys.
Yeah, why not? That
dumb.
doesn't surprise me at all. At this
Yeah,
point.
So-
it's gonna take me back to one of my gripes. So go ahead.
So like, basically, whenever you level up in a class, it moves you towards stat growths. Basically, so like a white mage is going to gain more MP than like a knight would. And so if you change your white mage.
Oh, I was okay. Neat.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's kind of cool, and you can make
Some
your
Dragon's
characters-
Dogma stuff.
Yeah, I
You
was
can make your
thinking Dragon's
characters
Dogma.
fucking crazy broken OP because there's a certain spot in the game where you can level down. So you can level your characters down as the weakest class in the game and then re-level them up as a ninja and they become invincible. And that's the only way you can beat
For
them.
no reason, because you're just gonna steamroll whatever you fight anyway. Like halfway through that journey, it's so
Except
dumb.
for the Omega Dungeon, I will say. It's useful for that.
Who
But
cares?
it's just like extra cool little depth shit that I
It's true.
really
That's just
appreciate.
spreadsheet territory.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've looked at the spreadsheets, not understood them, and just been like, hey, ninja good.
Yeah,
Ninja
that's
good,
I
white
always
mage
I
bad.
always just go back to Ninja Samurai Unga Bunga.
Yeah, monk just fuck shit up. Yep. Yeah, it's like you can totally just like fuck the game up if you know it's overpowered. I wanted to say though, Danny, you brought something up with one of your gripes that I never thought about. I'm glad you did. Is how little they use some of the classes in the game.
Yeah,
It's
like
mostly
some you
knights.
like forget they exist if you're not using one. Like, wait a minute.
You're like a geomancer. What the fuck? Like, why is there no? Why isn't there more geomancer based like levels? Like,
It's
totally-
funny. Remember when I said you see that one white mage? You actually see two geomancers in that mission.
That's
I was like, oh
funny.
yeah, I forgot about them.
Yeah, they exist. Kind of.
I tried Geomancer briefly. I was like, oh, that sounds really cool. But it also sounds really convoluted for what little you get out of actually using them. So forget that.
Those abilities can go like across the map though. It's crazy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
gave
And
it.
the equipment is
They
pretty
don't use
good.
MP as well.
Yeah, it's
It works really well with Agrius. Actually, it synergizes really well. It's not like a super meta build, but it's very effective because it gives her a strike range from anywhere in the map, more or less. You know.
Totally. I when I was doing like my magic only, it was really useful for one or two characters to have it because it was further range than like you said, like some of their spells, and it didn't cost MP.
Yep. And the damage is pretty good if you stack the right stats. You know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I still don't use them. 'cause they're
Runeblade.
not good, but Runeblade.
Good.
What do you guys think about like the equipment in the game? Like how did you feel about that?
When it wasn't broken, it was pretty cool.
I remember I kept thinking they kept finding interesting ways to make gear that I was constantly like swapping off and on, if that makes
Totally.
sense.
I agree. I think that like, especially towards the end of the game, they don't just make it like this sword is better than this sword necessarily. That still exists, but it's like this sword has this effect, like
Yeah,
the,
this
like
property.
the dagger that increases your evasion. It's like, oh, should I take that for like more damage? Like, what should I, I enjoy kind of thinking that up, and then especially what I enjoyed this playthrough because during the base, just my base playthrough of the base game, I was like, I'm not gonna make totally OP characters. Like I made Agrius, like a holy knight with like white magic, because I was like, she can be like a paladin. It wasn't that good, but it was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
White mage sucks, like you said. Like my fucking samurai was better. But like you can mix and match like the gear in really cool ways to kind of like gish your stats. Like if you're like, damn, I wish that my archer or whatever would have more MP, but it's like if you equip them, if you find a way to equip them with robes, then you can even further like modify what you want each character to be doing.
Yeah,
I like it.
and then that combined with just the class system was really cool. Or jobs, like I found myself moving my summoner back to being a white mage because I had more speed, and then yeah, just juggling all that was always really entertaining.
Yeah, I like the equipment system. I like that it's not just like linear items do more damage and stuff. It's not.
Yeah.
There's more customization to it.
And
I
it's
thought it
not
was-
like, oh sorry, Golden.
No, it's okay. You can go ahead.
I was just gonna say I liked how at the same time it was like complicated, but at the same time it was basic. It wasn't like increasing your defense stat or your magical
It's
defense stat.
simple stats, but like difficult to make the decisions for me
Yeah.
because like, oh man, bracer gives me 3 attack, dude, but I need movement
I need
on
movement.
this stage, so
Totally. And
Oh.
it wasn't like defense, but it was like just HP, MP, and then something extra, which kept it from being like, I don't know, I guess this is better defense. I don't know what that's really gonna do for me. It's like, oh, this is like 40 extra HP, like that's significant. I can imagine what 40 extra HP would do for my character based on my previous fights.
hmm
The minute I got access to bracers,
Everybody
that's
had
all,
one.
that's all she wrote, dude.
Oh,
So that's kind of what I wanted to say on the equipment in general is that through most of the game, it's modular in interesting ways, and you don't it doesn't have to be in how you use it, but it can be, which is the whole point. But I did find that toward the end, once everybody that could use a twist headband could use a twist headband, that's what they wore. And if they could wear a power gi, that's what they wore. And if they could wear a everybody can wear a bracer, but you get the point, because those strength ups are so potent
oh, they're
in terms
crazy.
of like
Even one.
the impact on your ability to it like can like double your damage if you just stack strength like that. It's a game changer. You have less health, but the enemy dies in a hit as opposed to 2. So
Yeah. And on that point, did you guys know that male characters naturally have +1 physical strength and female
Yes.
characters have
Bullshit.
+1 magical strength?
I'm offended. That's why Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced starts with one
Oh.
of the female characters saying that's gender discrimination.
Which
I
is
saw
also
that
funny.
line tonight. I enjoyed it.
On the same topic of that, the female soldiers that you buy from the guild cost less than the male soldiers.
Damn, it's fucked up.
It's like
that
not
is
by
a
much.
disgusting foul detail to bring up, Dark.
I think it's
Do you have
cool.
any others?
Do I have any others?
Yeah.
Did you know that Cloud can wear female-only equipment because
I
it's
believe
like
it.
alluding to the cross-dressing scene from Final
Oh,
Fantasy?
that's interesting.
That is cool.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say because he's sort of androgynous.
Well,
But-
that too.
It's
Well,
kind of
that-
the same point.
He's got those eyes, bro.
I
He's got those
mean,
eyes. Those Jamie
Darth,
guys.
you bringing up equipment made me look through one of my gripes about equipment.
Oh.
this guy's got
So-
grapes for days.
I did.
Gripes
He
for
got
his
some
gripes.
gripes. You know how the mission, like the game would sometimes chain missions.
Yeah.
So it would, have a mission like where somebody would have shell burst, buster or whatever, and just
You got
break all
dunked
my
on.
armor. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't have excess, and I would have like old shitty gear. So I would go into the next mission wearing rags, and I was like, "This is fucked."
I never
Like-
sold anything, so I would just run like
Hey,
one
okay.
down.
Well, this is a tangent to why I was so like not broke, but like armor broke. Is I couldn't figure out how the fuck samurai worked because I like bought all the skills, and I was like, "I'm gonna cast all this shit," and I could never cast anything. And I was like,
Yeah, I was confused. too.
what? And then like the tooltips are super helpful. It says draw out like whatever your katana. I'm like, oh, you have to be equipping it. Got it. So I bought the one I was
Yeah,
equipping it, and it was like, no. So they just have to be in your inventory, which I'm like, okay. So I spent all my money, or like, I would sell old stuff to buy every katana. So sometimes a couple of them. But it was just like, oh my god, they just broke both my gold hairpins, and now my fucking mages are wearing twist headbands. It's scuffed. Like that was really annoying. Like if it was for the
That is
mission,
super scuffed.
like if it disabled your armor, like that'd be fine. But it's like that shit's gone.
I agree.
It's gone.
I was shocked that it permanently ate up the items, but I kind of like it.
Yeah, I can respect it, but oh my god! And then I lost the Excalibur, and then they broke all my crystal mail, and I was like, oh,
You know what's even worse is like the worst character for doing that is the one that you steal that crazy accessory from. So by the end of that, none of my characters had like any gear. It was so fucked up. She broke like all of their armor because it's like a 10% steal chance. But if you steal their swords, they can't cast that spell anymore.
Well, that's good. But yeah, it was just like I was okay. I was literally okay with the armor break, but when it was in missions that would like sometimes chain into 4 missions, and I would lose more armor in a later one, I was like, please God, just kill me now with that armor. Like, send me to
I-
heaven.
Feel that, dude. I think this for the first time while playing it on this playthrough, because that was pissing me off a lot too. I agree with it as a gripe. I don't think it's a good mechanic. I think
Yeah,
it's just
like it's
I especially hate it when enemies have abilities like the knights that are only good for them in their context as like
yeah, just to be a
one of
pain in
affiliate
your
members.
ass.
Yeah, it's annoying and it's
Yeah.
stupid. I totally understand that. I started just having like doubles for
Yeah,
every single piece
that
of,
is
like,
what I
high
started to
gear.
do. I was like, I'm gonna buy an extra one just in case.
Totally.
Yeah, I had that problem by the end of the game. It's mostly a problem in chapter 4. Pretty annoying.
If you want, you know, knowing that might happen, you can use the knight's like thing that makes it so their shit can't
Maintenance.
break.
Yep.
Or I think it's like harder to break or something. But
No,
know.
it makes it impossible to break because WeGraph has it because I went to weapon break him so he couldn't game
Oh,
me,
yeah.
and
I
he
tried, that was my first try.
and he has that. So fuck you.
well, there you go. So there is a counterplay to it, but then you have to like know before it happens, and that still end up resetting to do it. And then, like, what's the chances everyone's gonna have it? It's annoying.
Yeah.
It's not a good mechanic.
Which also leads into tooltips talking about the samurai thing. Sometimes the tooltips were just bad. Like they were not good. Like I asked Colin because when I can't figure something out, it frustrates me, and I'm like, somebody has to know. Like I hate that I can't figure this out. So repeating fist with monks, like for the longest time, like it tells you this damage, and it kept hitting harder, and I was like, this is weird. So I just kept using it, and then my luck ran out, and I kept doing it, and it would hit for 20. And I'm like, what? And I would read the tooltip, and it's like, successive strikes, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what? So I asked Colin, I was like, what's the deal with repeating strikes? And he linked me, like, the stat guide thing of this, like, complicated fizz strength times that. And I'm like, that would have been nice to know. And there's,
Yeah.
like, a handful of things that are just, like, it gives you this like really brief description, like powerful move that does cool ninja flip. And it's like also gives you 20% evasion, blah blah blah. And then I'm like, how was I supposed to know that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's sort of a sign of the times, I think, with games, RPGs specifically of this era. So many like latent effects and things not explained.
Yeah, which I get. Like it's kind of cool, like when you kind of game them out and like figure them out yourself, or like lead into the mystery. But there was one thing I was trying to figure out, and one of the two, like, I wrote this in my gripes. I wrote, some of the tutorial tips are criminally bad. And I wrote criminally because there's a typo in one of the criminally bad ones that refers to critical as criminal. And it made me laugh. But the one tooltip says refer to the online help for details and effects and operating conditions. I was like, no video game, fuck you. I want to refer to the thing I'm playing.
Where the Lines is a bit better for that, but it's still like you're saying, like for that monk ability, it doesn't explain it.
I figure that's a localization thing, right?
Yeah, it's much better in More of the Lines, in my opinion. But there's still some fucking stupid ones. It's an old RPG. I mean, it's what it is.
Like it's just like Colin was saying, like sign of the times. Yeah. There were some weird line of sight bugaboos I ran into. Like that mission, I was getting so frustrated on. Spent 6 hours in. The ninjas could throw shurikens across diagonals not through walls, but like through a choke facing a wall. But you couldn't throw stones or shoot arrows. And I'm like, I know they're ninjas, so I guess they're just trickier. But why the fuck can they do that and I can't do that? Like that was just like small thing. I was already super irritated with that mission, and when that happened, I was like, this game's garbage. I'm about to boom.
Dude, that's so fair. I think like that maybe ties into like I kind of like that when you move, you're kind of like stuck there.
Mm-hmm.
Probably just because it's Final Fantasy Tactics. That's how that was. But it's kind of bullshit with the line of sight because it's not very easy to determine sometimes whether or not you're gonna have it or not. And the CPU has like all the like it knows all that information. It knows if it can throw from anywhere.
Yes, I ran into that. Like you'll see the CPU like stand there, and I'm like, oh my god, it is literally calculating like every possible thing. I'm like, it is about to do something bad to me.
Totally.
Yeah, but
I hate throwing games.
the AI of that definitely does like they keep it from being cheap. Like it could just roll you. Like it does do dumb stuff.
Totally. There are times where it puts itself like in a position to get like AoE'd super hard.
Mm-hmm.
And you can totally abuse that. Which is part of the reason why I think that like Summoner is so friggin' busted. Because it can just like wipe whole groups of like 4 enemies at once.
You know, Holden was making fun of me for having 2 time mages in that image.
That was me.
Oh, someone. You bastard. Both of those had sub summoner, so they would just like haste each other and then go summoner up the whole battlefield.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
It was really fun.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I have anything else to say, boys. Someone else say something.
I'm kind of talked out.
Looking for this concept art of Ramza I saw where he's like crazy cheeked up, but I'm also good.
I really wish I didn't know what you were talking about, Holden, but I absolutely do.
I've never seen that, so please do find it.
Let me go through my gripes and bring up things I have not. Because like,
Grape it up.
yeah, I'm griped up. I didn't like, not that it I know it existed for the plot, but I put plot convenient teleport because I hated like this hard battle or not hard battle where like you would fight somebody and they're like, fuck you, I'm teleporting. I'm like, well, that kind of ruined the gravitas of the fight because like I can't teleport. Why can you just fucking disappear and teleport?
Yeah, it's like a MacGuffin.
Yeah, like
it's
that was a really minor gripe, but it happens a lot. So I was like, ugh.
This game loves it.
Let's get to the enemy. Oh, this was a UI bugaboo. I didn't like that. Something that Final Fantasy Tactics Advance fixed. If you're in the act menu and highlight a unit, like mouse over them or cursor over them, you can't see their name. So you have to back out, go to like completely go out, and then select them outside of your character's turn to see their name.
Yeah, that would be annoying.
Yeah, and it just happened so much because I was like, okay, I gotta look at the turn order in the act menu. I don't know whose name that is. I gotta go back out of it. Oh wait, there's another one there. What is their name? And it was just kind of annoying, but like that was just like they need to fix this, and they did. Oh, and this was super duper minor. I wished you could have seen the shop inventory by like mousing over it, like going over it, and like not being able to buy stuff, because there were some shops that sold armor, some that sold thief weapons and katanas, some that sold magic.
That was the thing, Danny. I was gonna talk about that. I love that.
Yeah, I like that in theory, but it made it so like, wait, is that the shop that sells it? And I would walk there, go through 2 random battles, and get there, and it was the wrong shop. And I was like, son of a bitch.
Dude, sometimes you go back at the most obscure times, and they'd be a really good weapon.
They'd have update. Yeah, I noticed
Really
that
enjoyed
Dorter
that.
Trade City, probably because it's a trade city, always got like the juicy stuff.
Yeah, there's like a little bit of an addendum to that, because there's certain other like trade cities, stuff like that, and they kind of have the same inventory.
Mhm.
But for stuff like guns and like samurai weapons and stuff, it was kind of random who had it and who didn't.
Yeah, it was just like, I just wished you could have seen shop, like not buy from it, but seen the inventory.
And kind of like on what you were saying about like your gripe with not having all the information, you know, like it's just really annoying to like move all the way, like try to like get at everything. I think that maybe the game's depth that I like about it kind of betrays itself there, because it's impossible for them to give you all the information. at
It
once.
would literally be
Annoying.
information overload if they wanted to tell you everything.
It is, which is a bit annoying for sure. Like I think that maybe something that would have been cool is maybe some sort of like tooltip to be like, hey, you have bad combo with this guy, but good combo with that guy, instead of having to like go and look through every single one to be like, hey, who am I good with? Who am I bad with? Who am I
Yeah,
good
like
with?
like if the zodiac symbol glowed, or like glowed red or glowed blue, that was kind of all it would have taken. I would have been like,
Totally.
oh wait.
And why not?
Yeah.
That would have been cool. But I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, like it's just like I was saying, like I didn't hate this game. It just really like, it was unfortunate that it got on my nerves as bad as it did, because it was just like it was like somebody was shooting me with a BB gun. Like none of them were gonna kill me, but after the 50th BB, I was like, fuck it, stop it. Like I was just
5,000 grapes.
Yeah.
I hear that.
I'm just glad you picked the game back up after flushing it and
I
finished
would have
it.
cried if you didn't finish it. So you
I thought that would have been
Dark.
badass.
Yeah, it was my you gotta do it for Klon mode. You gotta do it for Dart.
We've all had one of those in this series of podcasts.
Yeah, I think
True.
that's what keeps us going and makes us stronger.
That's right. It's the illusions of Gaia, dude. I had to do it for Klon.
Gotta do it for Klon, man. But
It's
I
not that bad, dude. Come on.
So, dude.
But with that, you gotta do it for etc. I will say, like, I guess executive decision, and I understand, like, we may not all be on the same page, but to all the lovely viewers at home, this is going to be the last long game, because a long game and successive book club game, like, it's like with real life going on, things get in the way. Like, we want to keep this fun, we want to keep it like, we want to keep doing this, so we don't want to make it seem like a job, or we don't want to make it seem like forced. So we're gonna be sticking to short games. Maybe like somewhere down the road, if we do agree upon a longer game, like I think we have opened up to that we can agree upon a longer game
Or
than a
Cloud
shorter
One.
game.
Be there or be square.
I'll play it, dude.
Shut up.
No, I agree. And I don't care.
I
because
agree too.
the
Yeah.
game, ever since Book Club was announced, I was like, I want to play Final Fantasy Tactics, so I got mine. I got mine. Fuck everything else.
Yeah,
That's
there are a lot of games that we've like suggested to vote for book club or long book club that I feel like could fit into a possible like longer regular game. But
Yeah.
like again, like we'll see where it takes us. But speaking of where it takes us, it's time for everybody's favorite part that we missed out. Again, like as you may have noticed, I know we all noticed and felt the missing presence. Super was not a part of this episode. He, as you can see on the icon on the screen, is at Evo, so he could not join us this time. And but he will be back with us for the next pick. And speaking of the next pick, that means It's wheel time.
Oh, we haven't wheeled in so long.
we haven't
guys.
wheeled.
Wait, we didn't give our scores though.
Oh yeah, it's not
We're
wheel
gonna
time.
do our outros and our scores.
Listen, I'm
I'll be
excited
quick.
for the wheel. I'm excited.
Yeah,
I've been looking at this wheel for like an hour. I'm excited
I'll be
for it.
real quick with my score. And outro.
Yeah,
I have said everything I wanted to say.
Yeah, we have.
You go first, Darth.
Okay, me go. 1 second.
He's pooping.
we
Hello?
caught him in the toilet. He's on his
Sorry,
phone.
You got me, you guys. I'm done now. I'm done. I finished. So, like, Final Fantasy Tactics, like OG, is so close to perfect for me. Like I said, I love the story endlessly. Like you could already see, I could gush about it forever. Well, Colin will hit you up in the DMs later. It's gonna be great. It has like such strong aspects in so many ways, and it's a genre that I heckin' love. The only thing for me that holds it back, I love its blemishes and all. It just, for some reason, for me, for my brain, it just makes it better. It's just, it doesn't have the translation, the punch that I love in War of the Lion. So I'm gonna give Final Fantasy Tactics OG a 9.5 out of 10 because it's just barely off what it can be. And I'd say that if I had to do War of the Lions, I would put it a 10 out of 10. 100%. Like, no questions in my mind. I hear the grapes, but it doesn't change it for me.
Nice.
I respect it.
Respect.
I'm gonna follow just very briefly. You've heard me talk, so I'm not gonna do a whole big thing. I
Mhm.
love just about everything with this game. I think I'm on the same page as Darth that like prefer the translation in War of the Lions better, but there is something that it doesn't mean this one's bad. There's a few moments where it like kind of doesn't make any sense, but those are very few and far between. Generally, it's really good. So I'm gonna give this 9.25,
Nice.
and then we're done.
Juicy.
Dude, this game is so good. It is so my type of game. So
Mm.
Anyway, I'm done.
Yeah, boy.
I'll go next. It's a great game. As usual, our discussion has made me appreciate a good game even more, and I'm happy to have played it. Some frustrations, as I mentioned, but I think that is because it was my first time, and it's pretty easy to see how repeat playthroughs would. You could get a lot more out of this game, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'll give it 3 consecutive failed spell casts out of 12 reproducing chocobos.
Yes, cornhole score, yes. Sorry.
There you go.
You said 12 reproducing chocobos?
3 consecutive failed spell casts out of 12 reproducing chocobos.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want me to change that to raises specifically, or just spellcasts?
Well, yeah, raises, sure.
Yeah, those chocobos do be shitting up your party.
Yeah, it's so sad when you like make them leave and they're like,
Yeah, because they're like, dismiss? Is that a good thing? And I'm like,
I have nowhere
I'm
to
taking you
go."
out back.
What's that line about like monsters and humans can't live together or something?
Oh shit. Sorry.
Holden, would you like to?
Yeah. So I think if the game, I wouldn't call it polished. I think if it had a little less friction, I could actually consider it masterpiece. And also if it had that a little bit more sense of focus of honing in the giant weapon triangle that is this game. I think there's still something that's desirable of a first experience being, again, just a little more honed in, less obtuse, less friction, a little better explanations. But these are all just nitpicks because the game is so fantastic. So I will give it an 8.75, both objective and subjective.
Yes.
My man.
All
So,
right, Danny, come on.
I will close this out. Darth, close your ears. I'll close this out with like I agree pretty much on all points about the game. Like the successive playthroughs probably only gets better. The story is fantastic. The way it looks, like presentation, like sounds great. It's just like, but when I have so much, it's Holden put it, like friction, it's just, it really rubs me the wrong way, and it just totally sours me on a game, because it was like I was putting in the time, I was asking the questions. Like my complete time for the game was like a little over 30 hours, but my play time for the game is like 43, because I spent so much time losing in missions. Did a 2.5 hour grind fest. I did like I spent the time, I tried, and it was just like everything like came up abrasive. And then at the part where like I figured out, like I had that breakthrough of like, wait, story missions don't scale, I just rolled over the game, and I was like, whoa, I went too far. And it really hampered the experience. But there was plenty of good. But overall, like playing the game, just it never meshed with me. Like maybe a successive playthrough where I'm just nasty the whole time, and it's like, how nasty can I get? I'd enjoy that way more. But that being said, like, there are a lot of redeeming factors, but overall playing it, if I'm basing it off how much I enjoyed the time I spent with it, I gotta put the game at 6 out of 10.
Oh, fuck. Sorry.
Do you have an
I
objective
know where
for
you
that?
live, dude. Come on.
That's fucked up. That's fucked up.
Or is that your objective score?
That is my me, like my 42 hours spent. Like, would I do it again? Like, enjoyment scale, like, because it's just like, of the time I spent playing this game, if I could say, like, that's also being generous, like, is hard to believe. Of the time I spent playing this game, I enjoyed maybe a quarter of it, and I wasn't about to sit here and give this game like a 4, because that is unfair to the presentation and the like everything else. But the gameplay just really, like, as far as my time spent playing this game, enjoying it, it was very low.
All right, so you got me heated. You got me tilted. I'm gonna press you. Just
Right
I
at
got
the
I gotta
end.
compare your scores here for a sec. So you're saying this is as bad as Faxanadu, Croc, Dracula X, Do Re Mi Fantasy, and Crusader of Senti. You are going on record. Put your hand on your heart. You mean that?
Yes.
You're full of shit.
No, I am saying this game has. It's funny. I even looked up negative, or I didn't look up negative reviews, like the bias. I looked up the Metacritic reviews, and all of the ones that are like glowing sound like you and Darth, and all of the ones that are really bad, there are a lot that are really bad, sound like me. So it's not just me, and like some of their gripes are exactly what I complain about. Like, so it's just like this game, if it doesn't mesh with you because of the gameplay, like it does not. Like, these people are out there giving it like 2 out of 10 and stuff, and I think that's totally unfair to the game as a whole. Yeah. But that's why I'm like 6 out of 10. Like 60% sounds harsh, but it's just like, had I not ran into the gameplay or like all my bugaboos, I would be sitting at an easy 9. Because it would have been near perfect. But it was just like so much of it just did not agree with me. So I'd stand by my 6.
I'm gonna
I
need to
respect your 6.
decompress.
Yeah. Spin the wheel.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
right,
sorry,
I'm
Darth.
done.
I told
I
you
need
to
the
close your
wheel,
ears.
bro. I need the wheel. Just spin the wheel.
Now you know how I feel when Super gave Alien Soldier a
spin the
3 or
wheel.
something. Blew me out of the water. Alright, let's get
Give it a
this.
5. It was a 5.
See, I gave this a 6. I could have. Okay, I'm gonna be real. If I flushed the game, it was getting a 3. I will be 100%.
That's fucked up.
That would have been fucked up. I will agree. Like, I wasn't
you're
gonna
out
be
of-
one of those Metacritic
That's-
people.
Dude,
That's
the bird
fucked.
game's fun.
Bird game is fun. I'm a bird man. I need to do drugs or shoot
I'm
up.
kicking you out of book club.
Oh
dude.
god, I'm getting voted out.
Give me your card.
Okay, all right. Let's distract everybody from my 6 out of 10 with the wheel. They added a new, like, it spins like before you spin it. This is pretty fancy.
Oh, you should have left Evo up for the wheel.
Here, I'll put Evo in the corner for the wheel. Super is here in spirit. Oh god, I'm breaking.
Man, we've
OBS.
been waiting for the wheel for a long time.
I feel like
since.
everybody-
Simon's Quest.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have taken myself off of the wheel since we played Terra Enigma. We got my pick. So yeah, unfortunately, Simon's Quest is still looming on this wheel.
We just
But
gotta
here,
keep backfilling.
here we go. I will, yeah, please God, keep putting games on here so Simon's Quest stays far. But yeah, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Spin that wheel.
Woo! Oh!
Hold on, this is your pick, right?
Yeah, I've been trying to play this game for like 2 years now, dude.
Yeah.
We've been doing.
This is gonna be good.
What's the last Holden pick we got? Because I know all my. picks.
Zero Mission, I think.
Oh yeah, Zero Mission.
That long
yeah.
ago.
So how many? Like obviously now we cannot say anything about this. How many people have played Perfect Dark?
This is, I think, the first game that I've
Never even heard
actually played through of our picks. So
Oh,
I have
nice.
played it.
I've played parts. Never the whole
Cool.
thing.
Neat.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
that's-
yeah. Like you were saying, I think this is gonna be a good one.
Yeah, I don't
Yes.
know anything about it, but I think at the very least it'll be a nice change of pace.
Yeah. Lengthwise, are we looking at like short,
Oh,
medium, longer?
Short.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I
Like
like it.
there,
Short.
there's optional stuff, but like as a FPS, like it is a N64 FPS. That is what it is. That's not an opinion. And it does have a campaign. The multiplayer was a big draw. Like we could probably touch on that, but obviously it won't. And there is like side content. So like it's this is going to be on the shorter side of all of them.
It does have different mission objectives depending on difficulty.
Depending on difficulties, yeah. So like there's purpose for multiple playthroughs.
Also, our first N64 game, I think.
Until we get Quest 64.
God.
hey.
Next long
Okay,
game.
it's not on the list, so you can. Oh God, Quest 64. But as soon as it becomes on that list, you shut the fuck up. But yeah, it's good to be back. Like I feel like it's been a while since we've all sat around next to the Super. Have fun at Evo. I know you're having a good time. You're killing it. You're being out there, giving us all FOMO, and he'll be back with us next time. But Super will rejoin us for Perfect Dark for the N64 for the next episode of Seriously Casual Video Game Book Club, episode 17. But
You
for
know-
now,
I'm glad we did long game justice on the second and final one.
yeah, 2 long games. Like and we got this was a good game for long game too. Like I feel like both long games that we got were probably the best choices we could have done.
Yeah.
But
Good
yeah,
stuff.
Chris, Holden, Colin, Darth, thanks for joining me. Always
Thank
a
you,
good
gentlemen.
time.
Thank you.
thanks.
Good send off for
Good game.
long game, and we'll reconvene next month for Perfect Dark. Like I said, for episode 17, Video Game Book Club, Seriously Casual.
No,
Okay,
dude.
thanks, bye.
See ya.
Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Thanks for joining.